trying to get back to the upside as we get going on a brand new week. Coming off a 6 straight for the S&P 500 week, that is, to the upside as of Friday. We are dipping back down a little bit right now, but choppy to start ahead of a monster week, not only on the economic data side of things, but also on the inflation and interest rate side of things. We'll learn more on Wednesday afternoon when we hear from Fed Chair Powell. 2 o'clock, we'll get the interest rate decision. Going to be no change, but we'll hear from Fed Chair Powell coming up at 2:30 on Wednesday afternoon. We'll see if there's any comments leading us to believe, or leading us more to believe, that they are in fact done with interest rate hikes. I have a funny feeling that is not going to be the case, and he will just toe the line as he has over the past few months, with no indication as to when they are going to actually be finished. That being said, a ton of things moving around here this morning. Macy's one of those. Macy's going to go private, apparently an offer anyway, so up 15+% right now for Macy's. We'll also touch on some chip news this morning. NVDA not really doing a heck of a lot, but interesting headlines to go along with that. Welcome to Monday. It's Monday, December 11th, 2023. Tradertv.live starts now. DJ Fabian's cranking the intro music here in the studio. Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Happy Monday.
Thank you. How was your weekend?
Good. How was yours?
Chill. Did that active rest, Brendo? Anybody who has done heavy exercise, you need to do
this time of year, especially. It's a good time to catch up on sleep. You saw some headlines there. A lot of interesting notes as we get going here to kick things off on a Monday. Obviously, Fed decision going to take the headline this morning. Hey, guess what? We get CPI tomorrow morning as well, and then another dose on Wednesday with PPI. Obviously not as closely watched by the market, but not one but two. Pretty important inflation prints coming up here. Conveniently, they'll get the CPI print, the Fed, that is, a day before they have to make this call as to how hawkish Fed Chair Powell's comments are going to be at 2:30 on Wednesday afternoon. Not going to do anything as far as hiking or cutting as of this meeting, but a lot of focus going to be on what is said, I think, as far as that press conference is concerned, and whether there'll be any indication as to the timeline when they'll start reeling this thing back in. We were just noting before we came on, yields back to the upside this morning in a pretty big way. Right across the board, 2, 10, 30-year, all higher. Dollars higher as well ahead of this Fed meeting. Yeah,
the 2-year really pumping up here, especially as compared to the 10-year, 1.42%. Come to the chart real quick here if you're able to, Fabian, because we did base out here at that 4.5 level last week, and then we really rocketing up here above 4.7, Brendo. But are you sick of hearing higher for longer, that phrase? I'm sick of hearing it. I want some more nuanced color.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
I mean, the past couple, he's kind of shifted more to the data-dependent type of language, and we'll see, what the numbers tell us. They're going to be very data-dependent going forward. So I have a feeling that's just going to be, it's going to be the same old, same old. This is kind of interesting as well. Lucid, Zoom, eBay. There's a huge index change coming up on Friday, if you're just joining for the first time in a while. So the year-end S&P index change is coming up Friday as of the close. I mean, the actual changes will take place next Monday at the open, but the adjustments come the Friday before, so third Friday in this case. So Lucid Zoom, you saw there, Lucid Zoom and eBay coming out of the NASDAQ 100. There's a few things we'll talk about during the week in regards to this, obviously, but Lucid hasn't not had a good year. Zoom is a little bit surprising.
Yeah.
I mean, they also haven't had a good year, but there's a lot of interest still around that.
They've been doing a lot of cost cutting and trying to diversify their portfolio a little bit, just going beyond the meetings company and trying to incorporate AI. We've talked about it on this desk, how they're trying to incorporate tools, to kind of summarize meetings, create transcripts, etc. DoorDash going in replacement of one of those. We'll have to see what else comes in. But also, Brendo, the new futures contract. I believe we roll over this week as well.
It's that time of the quarter. Yeah, DoorDash, as you mentioned, I was kind of surprised. Not really doing anything this morning. It's higher, but very, very light volume. DoorDash going in, MongoDB, big change as well coming up. This Splunk, SPLK also with a decent sized change coming up on Friday. So lots to look forward to as we head towards Friday this week, including once we get to Friday, then there's just one more week until holiday time. So. Yay. Sean has a couple days off. Obi's in. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. And look, first things first, as Brandon mentioned if you're trading or looking at the futures, you don't want to get caught offside here. Make sure you switch the H contract, right? Like, what we're here to do is we're going to talk about trading ideas. You know what the drill is. We're going to get you lined up correctly in all of the right moving stocks, because that's where everything starts. It's from a foundation, what is moving, get the play started right with everybody lined up in the right types of names, and then we can go forward from there. There's going to be obviously some bangers and opportunities out there, and we can talk about things like the JDs and the Luces and the Dashes that are involved in index actions at the end of the week, and maybe something about Uber as well. But there's plenty of things that are going to be in play. Apple is at key prices. Tesla has a big resistance level coming into play. Snapchat and Pinterest are both gapping to the upside. Heck, it's a good day when someone actually wants to buy Macy's too. So Macy's on a huge gap up. Just one thing about Macy's here, it's a $21 offer. And inside the press release, it was mentioned that they might be willing to make a higher bid after doing some due diligence. So, this has a short interest. I think it's going to move a heck of a lot more than something with a regular $21 accepted offer. That should be out there. And if you can't tell, I'm happy about my Bills. So I'm just getting that one out there. Because at the end of the day, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And the Buffalo Bills, they beat the Super Bowl champions, and I don't care what you want to say. You got to go put your foot in the right spot. We capitalized on that mistake, and a win is a win, so I'm in a pretty good mood. Glad to have Obi here. How was your weekend? Because I'm happy about the Bills.
Nice. I'm happy that you're happy that your team won. My weekend was all right. Nothing too crazy. Just a couple birthdays, couple parties, one birthday. But other than that, nothing too eventful.
You're very low-key about the couple of parties. Yeah. Wow. It's like, so basically, there's only two ways that could go. Either it was like, you're not doing much of anything, or, which we know the truth is, this party was so off the chain that Obi's like, I just gotta lay back, and party was cool. It was okay. It was cool. No big deal.
Yeah, it was all right. It was all right.
Side. Sharif. Yeah. How you feeling about them Cowboys?
Here we go. That's exactly how I feel, Neil. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That was a statement dub. We almost beat them on their turf last time, and we decisively took them around. It was a defensive performance, 2 takeaways on the defense. Dak was putting up numbers. The receivers were putting up numbers. Tony carried the ball well. What else can you say, Neil? What else can you say? Where is the critique? You know what's going to happen on the 17th, too. You're going to be doing a whole lot of squats on Monday, so we'll have to wait and see.
I can say. I'd already put this one in the chat. And look, you heard Sharif talk randomly for apparently no reason about how he did active rest over the weekend. He was only doing cardio, which fine, fair enough. You want to volunteer that at the beginning of the trading show? No problem. We can talk about anything. But you know the reason why you did it, because Bring Sally Up challenge is going to be you doing it live next week when we beat them Cowboys. The Buffalo Bills are going to do it. We're going to have a lot of fun. That's next week. I understand. I'm going to do my regular workout schedule during the week because I don't care. I'm not going to have to do it. It's not going to matter. Everything's going to be all good. But I'm glad you're excited. I'm glad you're having fun with it, Sharif. Oh. Let's be real. You know the boys are in trouble when they come to Buffalo.
I don't know that.
Yes, you do. You know it. I know it.
It's going to be a good one. It's going to be good. And I gave you your props yesterday. I was first to message you. I said, congrats on the win. You kind of got one. I got a little lucky there, but it's okay. It's okay. You don't always have to know your spatial presence. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Neutral zone infraction helped kind of get you a little bit out of the corner there, Neil.
That was loud. What's happening on 17th?
Oh, so the Bills play the Cowboys, and
Okay.
you and I have a nice friendly bet.
Okay.
The winner of that gets to watch the other person do a whole bunch of squats over here to the Sally up, Sally down.
Right. Anyway, let's talk about Nike, why don't we? Decent move, guys. Trying to break out on the daily chart this morning to the upside. 117.25 was that last high. 1.6% right now in the pre-market on an upgrade from Citigroup on or during a season, I should say, that a lot of people might be out perhaps shopping for Nike apparel. Not bad.
Yeah, it's the time when they're really gonna excel here, Brendo. Now, we've been hearing a lot about Nike doing more of a direct-to-consumer push, trying to circumvent the likes of Foot Locker, etc., whether they're selling to you directly online or through their stores. So I'll have to wait and see how they do. But last earnings report, it was a lot better than the previous couple. Price target raised, Brendo, to 135 from a hundo here. So let's see how they do.
A staggering 30,000 shares traded so far for Nike here, guys, on this upgrade.
Staggering. I like that one. We got to throw all of the big words out there. You know what, though? You can throw some shade on Nike with the volume, but you can't really on the daily chart because we're back above the 200 period moving average. Support turning into resistance is one of my favorite things. There was support that turned into resistance. That would be at about 115.75. Well, we're above that now. So last I checked, that's good. Above that 115, let's just call it 116. That's where you closed. You had failed that break on Wednesday through that 116 level, and now you're gapping above it. One of my favorite, and I've said this like way too many times now, but why not? One of the easiest things to look for a setup in trading is support turning into resistance and vice versa, because it gives you a place if you want to join a trend to look for an opportunity to buy or sell, but in this particular case it would be buy. So you've got the 116, which gives you that close and the big level from all the way back then. And then you've got last week's high sitting right at that 117 quarter as well. So if this can hold on to either one of those two levels, those are solid entries for the stair step to the upside. Nike has been doing well. Now, I understand all of the concerns that go along with China sales, that go along with the consumer and the amount of debt the consumer is holding and how long this can hold up. And you just got a blowout jobs report. Well, you got a big jobs report on Friday. Maybe I don't want to call it a blowout, but you got a big jobs report last week. That's going to give you the signs that we're getting this soft landing. I may personally be skeptical about how long that can hold up, but when you're trading, it doesn't matter what I think. Like I can be skeptical about the consumer holding up. I can be skeptical about there being a soft landing. Both those things are true, but I don't have to trade around that. I trade price action. And price action is indicating Nike breaking out. So you can have all that contrarian and go ahead and be Michael Burry or somebody else that does something different on a higher time frame. But if you're day trading, take the stairs to the upside on Nike in this one. 117, 116, those are pretty key levels on the way back in. If it wants to make that pullback, great. There's other names that have done better volume that I'm probably going to be more interested in at the open, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with this daily chart. Before we came on here, 5 minutes before the show started, I was listening, and we're doing our thing, getting ready. We got our charts up and all that good stuff. And I could hear Wayne, who's one of the two floor managers, risk managers on the floor, talking to some traders. And all I could hear was, I think he was talking about, I heard ARM and I heard Affirm, and I'm pretty sure the gist of it was, why not just join trending stocks when you're looking for day trade? Because when you see a trend upside like this, if you just look for places to join it every single day, you're probably going to do a heck of a lot better. Now, you look at, this is an extreme, something like an Affirm, where you're going to get obviously better and bigger moves than Nike. But when you have a stock that's trending and you see it start to break out again, just look for the next trade in that same direction. Then you get things like Affirm. Then you get things like ARM, which has been stair-stepping up since 46 and just recently broke a consolidation. That's why we like those longs. It's very simple. It's a heck of a lot easier to try to ride the wave than it is to fight it. Now, it can be satisfying when you catch tops on stocks that are going higher and when you catch bottoms on weak stocks. Very, very satisfying because it feels like you outsmarted the market. But we're not here to outsmart the market. We're just here to make winning trades.
Yeah, definitely. You just gotta catch a good piece of the move, right? Here to catch the meat of the move, ideally. But yeah, definitely trending. So I saw you talking about Nike. So I looked up. Okay, well Nike's pretty strong. Let's take a look at some other shoe and footwear makers. So I got I looked up Burke and I looked up Crocs as well. But yeah, kind of a similar story off earnings. A little bit of a trend happening on Burke as well. And then if you look at Crocs. Crocs as well, a bit of a hold on that earnings reaction and a bit of a trend. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with that message where if something is trending on the longer time frame, you have support from longer time frame players, and that can definitely make your day trade much more straightforward.
All right, let's bring in Michael Na, CMT over at Trade Ideas, to kick off a brand new week here and get an idea of what we should be looking at. Mr. Na, it's good to see you. It's it's a strong market. Let's be honest. We end the week basically back at highs last week, 6 in a row for the S&P 500. You were mentioning, when we spoke on Friday, that in this position, yes, the market has come so far. We still need to be prepared for either occasion, whether we break out and continue or we get a bit of a pullback here.
Yeah, and I was in the green room listening to Neil there about his talk about how, the move seems to be to follow trending stocks and following trending markets when you're day trading. Same thing I'm doing when we're swing trading, right? We are obviously in an uptrend here. I don't see any reason why I should be betting that we're going to turn around and that's going to be the end of it. It is smoother and my opinion way easier to just go with the trend and go with what we're seeing with the trend. So this is just chart the S&P 500. I've had these blue lines drawn here on the chart for anyone who's been following me on the show for a long time now. And Friday we actually broke and closed above, which is actually the high we had there in July. So we got to close above that. So if we are going to get some follow through, then I'm going to continue to build names of stocks that I'm looking to buy in a breakout. And that's kind of been the theme, I guess, with me here for the last 2 weeks is I'm anticipating this breakout, making a list of stocks that I really like. If we do get a market breakout, and then I'm going to look to take those names. So I want to prepare myself if we do get this breakout. If we reverse here and sell lower, then there's certainly no harm doing the work. So one way I'm going to do that is with a RSI indicator. Now, this is technically how most people are taught to use RSI, is that you buy when it's oversold and then you sell when it's overbought. I can tell you for sure, and I'm going to show you with some back tests that I've run, that this is not the way, right? This is not the way to trade this indicator, because what the indicator is telling us, which is what is the average up move in the name versus the average down move in the name. If you trade like this, generally speaking, most strategies will underperform just buy and hold in the overall market. So this next little chart we have is more or less how I've been using it and the back test that I will show you. And essentially what we do is we look at the RSI in 3 distinct ranges, whether it's in a bullish range, which is generally if the RSI is above 50 and can't get under 50, or a bearish range where the RSI is below, say, 40 and can't get above 40. Now, ideally, what we want to look for is a RSI that's stuck in that upper range. Now, I'm okay with, and what I'll show you is a scan that we have where an RSI is unable to get oversold. So the exact opposite, I guess, of what you're taught in these textbooks. Because if my stock is unable to reach that oversold area for a long period of time, it means that this calculation of average up move versus average down move is really favoring the average up move. And for me, that just makes sense, like the stocks I want to buy, the ones that on pullbacks, those pullbacks aren't very shallow or aren't very deep as measured by the RSI. So these shallow pullbacks as the stock moves lower, and then if the stock moves higher and it gets oversold, that's fantastic. So I have one example here on a weekly chart, which I thought was really good to highlight, is Peloton. The green box is essentially when the RSI is in this bullish regime. So it's unable to ever get oversold. In this case, it was unable to get under 50 on the weekly chart of Peloton. And this was the 2020 craziness where you could have bought Peloton at any time and looked like a genius. And now, during the period of time between these two boxes where nothing was happening, you can see that RSI is kind of pegged right in the middle. And then as we start to sell off, the RSI is never able to get overbought again, telling you that it's time to get away or it's time to be short. And the last chart before we get into some ideas is just a simple back test I ran. This goes all the way back to 1980 until today. And essentially all I did is I said, okay, get me the S&P 500 stocks and get me the top ones that were where the RSI for at least a year were unable to get oversold. And I'm going to buy those stocks as those are breaking out. And the green line is essentially if you did this with your portfolio, the red line is the S&P 500. Anyone knows me knows I'm a big math nerd, so I like to back up my ideas with math. So you can see you beat the market, you have less of a drawdown and a higher Sharpe ratio overall over this incredibly long period of time just by finding these stocks where the RSI is unable to get oversold. So, of course, we have a scan to trade ideas. That's what we do. And from that scan, I went through last night and I picked out a couple names that look interesting to me that I would share with you guys. So, Amazon is the first one. So the purple line that I'm drawing at the bottom of the where the RSI is essentially just saying that's the 30 level. That's the oversold. So how long Amazon was not able to get oversold. You can see all of the pullbacks, especially the kind of harsh pullback we've had recently in the last few months. We still weren't able to get to that oversold reading. So for me, that's the definition of a strong stock. Now, right now, it's just kind of putting this consolidation at high. Same as the Qs, same as the market. This one's so big that it's going to kind of move the market one way or another. But I do like Amazon if it can break this because it's showing me here that dips are getting bought. I guess that's the simplest way to put this idea is that if dips are getting bought, then your RSI doesn't get oversold. Next is Snow. Same type of thing, right? We have over a year now where this RSI, even on the pullbacks, we're unable to get oversold. And we have this really tight consolidation. Big gap up on earnings, and now it's been consolidating very tightly against this level. So if we can break even Friday's high on Snow, I think that's a really good play. Gets us through this long-term zone that I have drawn here and potentially out to new highs here. Next one, a little bit less time that the RSI was unable to get oversold, but I really like the gap up here on PDD or Pin Duo. Same thing, nice earnings gap, and it's been holding that earnings gap really, really well. So it breaks the top of that range. That's where I'm interested. Stop under that low. And last but not least is Duolingo, which I think I've mentioned here a few times. Same idea, right? The RSI, ever since we bottomed out here, the RSI hasn't been able to get oversold. So every dip has been getting bought. That's what we're looking for. We want the institutions to be getting involved as dips are getting bought. And now we are holding this gap right here that happened on earnings. So if we get to move off this, it's kind of hard to see it, but I drew a little anchored VWAP from before that gap, and we can't get under that level as well. So if we turn and we move higher here, I'm interested in that name as well. So these just go on the list, the same as all the other names that I went on the list. I think this week for me is a very important week in the market. If we get this continuation higher out of this consolidation range, then I have a whole bunch of names that I'm looking to buy.
We bring a lot of different ideas, and it's, I think, worth mentioning, we're not, for anyone watching, we're not suggesting that you just, throw out everything else you've been doing and now do this. It's just another thought and another idea in the process, right? And it's a good way to maybe get confirmation of an idea that you might have had prior but didn't really know how to execute on. So using a tool such as RSI to get confirmation of an idea that you're looking for long term, not necessarily saying, okay, now this is what I'm going to focus on going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's hugely important, and I'll tap on that. And there's a reason why you guys day trade, and I don't day trade very often, is because I'm not very good at it, right? And it's very important that you find the trading style and the trading methodology that fits with you. So if you listen to that presentation and you go, I don't believe that at all, I want to buy when RSI is oversold and sell when it's overbought, that's great. It's your money. You do what you like. If I come next time with a different scan that Trade Ideas has, and that one really makes sense to you, then that's the one you want to go with. I really, really believe in this concept that it's very important that you trade what it is that makes sense to you as a trader, as opposed to trying to emulate what you see other people do, right? So try to find, that's why I love even on Trader TV for day trading, there's a lot of different traders there that have different styles and philosophies. Pick one that just makes the most sense to you, because this is a long game. So I always use the example of I could give you the optimal diet, But if all of the things in the optimal diet you won't eat because they taste bad to you, then that's a useless diet to you. It's better for you to find something that you can stick with in the long run, because that's what we're doing here. Is we're trying to say, these are some ideas. If you like them, you can load up these scans and use it all day long. If you don't, then I'll probably be on Friday with a different scan and a different idea for you guys.
And a ton of versatility highlighted as well with the software. So great stuff. Michael Noss, have a wonderful week. We'll speak again soon.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks as always, Michael. And I think not to just repeat the same thing, but that is so important. It is very, very important that as a trader, you've got to just do what works, not be wrapped up in trading a certain way, just trading the way that works for you. You don't know where your strengths are necessarily going to lie, but once you find them and once you find your comfort zone, you want to get out of it in terms of growing and all that kind of stuff, but you want to make sure you stick within whatever it is that sort of floats your boat, or what gets you engaged every single day, passionate about trading and profitable in trading. Now, I'm just going to throw it out there when you bring up Pinduoduo. This stock, and I know it's in a bit of a pullback, but this stock has been an absolute rocket ship. And I've been one of those, like, you heard me Alibaba a couple times in the last couple of years, taking shots in Alibaba. But this year, every single time Alibaba came up, I was like, just look at a chart of Pinduoduo versus Alibaba, and you tell me which one's the one you want to own. And this has been an absolute blowout stock. Now, granted, as a day trader, I have to also look at this 137 underneath, like 136, 137 zone, where it's been pulling back. That's a good support. But if it breaks that support, there is a big gap to be filled. I got to look at it in both directions. But it is approaching a very, very gigantic level. And before I move on, when we came to the two-shot, you probably noticed a little something that I wasn't going to announce right away. But shout out to the floor manager, Brenkels, who brought us some truffle candies here. So look, some of these are coffee, and then there's like caramel, and I don't know what this, Rice Crisp. These are like Belgium truffle candies. I'm going to try not to eat them while we're doing the show, because obviously then you can't really talk while you're having one of those candies.
I mean, we could, but it probably wouldn't be so pleasant.
Yeah, see, Obi's like, we could. Well, if we're muted, then you can do whatever you want.
Yes, we could, but it probably wouldn't be pleasant, is what I said.
Yeah, well, we're considerate like that. Like, I'll stuff my face with lots of stuff while we're doing the show, but I'll draw the line at having one of those and putting you guys through. But they look absolutely delicious. Let's get on over to the big board for some upgrades and downgrades.
Yes, so lots of really interesting ones on the board today, including Nike. This one actually has earnings to report on December 21st, so relatively soon. Keep an eye on that right now, trading up over 1% right now. Devin also getting an upgrade here from Morgan Stanley. Best Buy with an upgrade from Jefferies Financial, seeing a bit of an uptick in trading here. Kraft Heinz as well getting an upgrade here from Evercore. For downgrades, we have Morgan Stanley downgrading Marathon here, trading slightly lower as a result. Domino's here with a downgrade from Piper Sandler. Nestle getting a downgrade from Jefferies Financial. And last but not least, CubeSmart here with a downgrade from Evercore, guys.
So of those names, we already talked a little bit about Nike. I'll just point out, when we're going on the lines of, hey, join trend, yada, 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 all that good stuff, Best Buy, not necessarily the best day trading stock in the world, so I'm not gonna labor on it too long. But you have another stock which is bouncing, 50 period, 200 is actually holding. There is previous resistance at 73. It's kind of one wick and then it failed it. It just broke that out now, and look what's happening. So you've got the next move to the upside with a 73 bottom, and it's trying to take out the top. So when it's in this range, probably patiently and slowly awaiting a move. 73 looks like a good buy zone. If you want to trade, if you trade this stock, probably more of a swing thing, and then it needs to take out that 76 up top. But the trend has been pretty decent on this. Not much of a day trading stock at all. But this is what I mean about taking the stairs. When you hear me say taking the stairs to the upside, it's simply follow the trend using previous resistance as support every chance you get, and then trade based off of that. It's just another example here with Best Buy.
Yeah, I like that Domino's as well. Pulled up the DPZ downgrade But peculiar timing on the downgrade as we're right at the high of this consolidation range we've been in for 2 years. So I think that's pretty. That's an interesting look there. Every time we come into this 420, we kind of sell back in towards these 300s. But yeah, on the daily, if you take a look at what happened on Friday, a little bit of a it was Thursday. It would seem so. Thursday, a little bit of a strong candle or push into that high of that consolidation range, and we've only been pulling back, and now we get a little bit of a downgrade. So I think I'm curious to know what DPZ will be doing with some of these consolidation levels that we had going into this strong push to the upside.
All right, let's get into everything else you need to know here as we head towards the open on Monday. Again, keep in mind, inflation all week long. We get CPI tomorrow, PPI on Wednesday. We get Fed Chair Powell coming up on Wednesday as well. Sharif's here. He's going to have a look at the overall market.
Yeah, last I'm going to use the December 15th contract today, guys. But here we are, 45.07. That's where we closed out on Friday. That is, 46.07, excuse me. That is above that 4,600 level that we've been talking about as resistance. So if we're able to maintain 4,600, keep an eye out for, 46 and a third. To the low side, we're looking at this level over here, which is around that 45.90. That was a bit of the resistance level going into early last week. So look for 10 points below that 4,600 as a level of support.
And for anyone wondering, the reason that's important, what Sharif just said, is because like I just brought up the March contract for the ES, and it's at 46.50.
There you go.
So the price adjustment will happen when you roll over. So the levels will be a little bit different. But anyway, let's get into everything else you need to know here as far as individual movers are concerned for Monday. If you haven't done so, watchlist.tradertv.live. We'll get you there. You can scan that QR code as well, enter your email address, and then you get that for absolutely nothing, free from us every single day. Here's Bitcoin right now, downside. We'll kick things off with crypto this morning. Big ugly red candle here. We are trying to bounce though. What is that? 4,200 holding right now as far as support is concerned. Coinbase, however, 3.7% downside, giving back basically everything from the afternoon on Friday, holding at this consolidation right now. I mean, there's no real significant individual catalyst here as far as these stocks are concerned, but decent move down here. I mean, it's been a huge rally, so yeah, much needed, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Some profit taking here, at least in the short term, Brendo. Everything red on my cryptocurrencies watch list. Chief among them, Ethereum down 6% on the day, Bitcoin 4.5%. And like Brendo mentioned, the equity names also down decidedly. We've been looking for that 4,800 level to come in on BTC. That is the local high going back well into last year. We'll have to see if we touch that this week with CPI and obviously the Fed in view.
Yeah, some of the miners also down, Mara and Riot, 4+ each, but I mean, these charts still look great.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what happened on this move on Bitcoin here, just want to, for everyone that's like, oh man, I was long over the weekend or going into the weekend looking for a monster rally, well, just blame Fabian. Like, he basically went in and sold like 10% of his holdings, and then we had this push. The good news is the buyer stepped back in at 40,000. It was probably Ram getting a little Bitcoin down there. But so we held on to 40,000. That's good. And as Sharif mentioned, when you go to higher time frames, this is probably absolutely fine. Forget about the hourly. Let's go back to a daily chart. Right? So you're still pretty good moving to the upside here, bouncing off the 40. Would love to see it get back above 43. That's a little more bullish. I would watch out for that turning into resistance. It's Coinbase, generally speaking, that I'm going to be watching here. Why? Because this stock has been giving you big moves almost every single day. There is now a triple top at 148 on the 15-minute. Decent chance that we could see a test of that on any move upside in Bitcoin and the entire group. Respect the fact that we're currently down. Now, I know, look, on Thursday, you were underneath and down in the low 130s, actually holding 130. But it's this close here at 134 that's of most interest to me right now. So you had that close at 134. I'll zoom it in. And then you broke out that 134 on Thursday and then found support at 134 later in that session. So if we were to pop into the downside right away, it's that 134 level that I'm eyeballing on Coinbase. So certainly possible you could go breaking out right off of the open. I do like 148 resistance on Coin. The only open trade that actually sets up the best would have been a hold of the 140 for long in a stock that's down 3.5 when Bitcoin's pulling back. So I would normally be sitting here saying, okay, well, if I was bullish on the stock, go long off 140. But I'm not that bullish based on what I saw on Bitcoin. Needs to hold back above that previous resistance level. So I got to sit there waiting for 134. The only trade at the open could be a pop and fade where you fail the pre-market high and then fail 140, and then that actually sets up a short into 134. Until then, I'm going to be very, very patient. Patience is a virtue. If you've been watching trading the last few weeks, it has been all about not fighting things at the open. Don't fight. You're going to be able to join trends. That was demonstrated all last week. When there's a trending stock, it is not that hard to find. As long as you're in the right stocks, it's not that hard to get into the trend. Demonstrated that with AMD, GameStop, Affirm, ARM, all kinds of opportunities to be able to join those trends. So I'm not going to sit there trying to overtrade coin at the open. We know where the key levels are going to be.
Yeah, definitely agree that even though that pullback on Bitcoin is quite heavy, bigger picture, I think we're perfectly fine in the uptrend. If you guys know how Bitcoin kind of moves over time, it does tend to have like those volatile flushes, which tend to get bought up when we are in a strong uptrend. So. Just looking at Mara, I like the 134, 135 area on coin, as Neil pointed out. But Mara as well, it kind of not as big of a pullback here. Still, we have a bunch of these supports that were formed over the past 2 weeks that we're still holding above. So I like this 15. You can see that this 15 is a little bit interesting, but take a look at this level as well. If we are going to take a little bit of a pullback, this 16 has been a little bit of an over under as well. Looking at this chart, these are 15-minute candles. But yeah, going forward today, I think some of these crypto names will definitely have chances to give us some decent opportunities to take pieces off of.
Loving Apple. All right. Wedbush and Daniel Ives specifically liking Apple today. We are downside a little bit, though, trying to hold 195 here this morning for Apple. But 250, yeah, 4 trillion? Why not? It's got back above 3 trillion if you were maybe on vacation last week. I mean, pointing to further demand, there's a ton of new products coming, including, I was reading over the weekend, actually, a new laptop series. All of them are going to get upgraded going into Q1. So, I mean, Apple just keeps going.
Fabian doesn't like them, though. No. He says they haven't made enough new products for his liking as of late. We'll have to see what the Vision Pro does when it comes out in January. Obviously, a much higher price point, not expected to sell too many of those. $3,500 is slated to be the price. But like you said, Daniel Ives liking this stock to the tune of $250, upgrading increasing the price target, saying that there's going to be robust holiday season for Apple, projecting iPhone growth to outperform expectations, Brendo, in the December quarter, and citing China as another revenue or engine of growth, which we've been kind of hearing the opposite of lately, with Huawei making their foray back into the phone market.
Just imagine if everyone who has an iPhone bought another one.
Yeah.
And then had 2.
Like Ramin?
I'm just saying, if you had 2, Apple would be double what they are right now.
And Ram is like, she's double fisting her iPhones right now. You should have done that on camera. Here we go. You guys can see what I saw.
Oh, she got 2 phones. Yeah.
Like a boss. Right there.
Yeah.
Straight up. I don't even know what to make of that. 'Cause I didn't realize she even had 2 iPhones. Why not, man? Do you? I'm happy. I own Apple shares. But I guess, okay, so here's the thing. Like, I'd love to, we were talking about price target increases. Ram's got 2 phones and all that good stuff. But we're up at resistance, man. What do you want me to say? Like, Apple is on the daily. Look at the resistance we're piling into going back into August. These are those August highs, like 197, 196 are the 2 big levels. Obviously, one of them got put in on Friday, which is the 196. So that's first stop resistance. And even if it breaks 96, I think you got resistance 97. If we clear out 97, there's, I think, a little bit more room, because 200 would be the next psychological level. So if you break and have buyers above 97, suddenly you've got $1 to the previous level at 96. which, resistance turning into support idea, and then into 200. So above 197, maybe the quarters or so, buying gets in above there. Then it looks like a long into 200. But until we see that, I mean, the 96 looks like a short opportunity. 97 on the daily looks like a short opportunity for.
I got mine right here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Randy. I just refilled my. Well, I didn't refill my coffee. Randy, thank you for bringing this coffee in the transparent. So, sometimes you got to see that the best coffee is served black, which should be obvious to everybody. But so Apple 96, I'm going to be looking at the open for a short at that price. And even if it breaks out from there, I'm still looking at that 97. You got to clear out that 97 for me to like it going into 200.
Yeah, it's definitely knocking on the door of all-time highs here. This is a beautiful, beautiful looking chart right here, a monthly chart. But just trying to emphasize how close we are and how strongly we've been building up into this level on a bigger picture move there. So that 195, I have it written down. 195 is quite an interesting area for me. I like this 194, 195 area. You can see that every time we kind of came into it last week, we've sold off quite aggressively. But I think it was Friday or what is this, Thursday, Friday. Friday was nice. You kind of use it as resistance, and then at the end of the day, you hop back above that 195 level. So going forward today, I am going to be watching whether or not this momentum kind of continues to the upside. We're only about a couple of points away from all-time highs, and that could definitely fuel some fire on a lot of names, as Apple again is the leader of the markets.
Or after the fact. We were just talking about volume in the market going into the holidays. In Ramin's defense, quickly, I've heard and read more and more people now are, when they get a new phone, keeping their old one, and then they have one that is like their social media and time-wasting phone. And whenever you want to go on TikTok, whenever you want to go on Instagram, that's like that phone that stays in a drawer, and then your new phone is like the.
I don't know. I don't know if Ramin's using it for.
I mean, that was the point, right? Yeah. I'm
a little suspicious of this, Brendo.
Anyway, chips. Let's talk about chips. There was this story out of New York. New York going to team up with IBM and Micron on a multi-billion-dollar research facility. Micron not really moving on that, IBM not either, but another couple of positive notes I saw for NVIDIA this morning as well. So always have to keep an eye on these ones.
Yeah, big investment in Vietnam in addition to the one they already have there, $250 million for NVIDIA as they look to expand their chip making potential to other areas of Asia. The big story last week, though, you'll recall, was AMD's announcement of the MI300X processor GPU that's supposed to take on NVIDIA's flagship H100. We'll just have to see how many of these they can pump out and what the orders are going to be like for them. But I looked, and AMD's already up aggressively this morning.
Yeah, this one too. MU 1.5%. NVIDIA kind of flat, about 0.5%, 0.4. But Micron looking good today, guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of the chip names are looking really good. I mean, I'm not buying that social media thing, by the way. I have to comment on that. That's just not the reason why. I mean, maybe players going to play. That's what makes a little more sense. You know what I'm saying? But AMD, right? Of course. Got to have that game. AMD, I think a lot of people are looking at these chip names and just saying, okay, well, where do we stop here? Like, what's going on? Like, how strong has this been? Well, double top June highs. You got May and June, 132. This is what, now granted, I think I actually mentioned this on, it would have been Thursday. I think it was on Thursday. My personal account, I took out 10% of my AMD when it got hit in front of 130. That didn't happen until Friday. So mention that it's because of this high. I don't know if we're going to pull back with a huge move, but when I see that 132 up there, to its resistance till it's not. You already pegged 131 on Friday. If you get up there again and break 131, there's overhead resistance at 32. That's a tricky breakout to be in, and I wouldn't necessarily want to do that. I think I look for a break of that high and think 132 on the daily is where it turns. Now, it turned $1 away on Friday, but I think there's a chance we get in there today. And if you're looking at, Micron, so great. It's been a good run for Micron. I think it's pretty obvious if there was a chance in the pre-market to have traded off 75.40. That was a really good breakout price. Micron has some room to run. My caution with this would be when it failed 79, there is 76. Like 76 turned into a resistance off that 79 level. So it's trying to break through that right now. I'll zoom this out so now you can kind of see that. It's trying to break back out here. It's failed this a couple of times. I think through 76.5 is a little more interesting on Micron. Forget about that 76 even. If it can clear that out, then you got that $2-3 of room to the upside. That gives you a couple of names to look. And if you've been watching last week, you know the one that I've been on. It's been ARM. ARM has been for me the best trade in terms of the chip names. It's just a straight stair-step upside. Once it broke 65, it broke out clean, got to 66, it dipped 65, and then got to 67. So if you're taking the stairs up, at least temporarily, this 66 consolidation area looks like the next step. For ARM, you've got to keep in mind that it's a recent IPO, so you're getting into levels that are uncharted territory for it. So there's not going to be any big significant levels on the upside. 70 will be psychological. I just want to be looking at this and saying, hey, if we dipped into previous resistance before and it worked, well then when I zoom it in, on Friday we had a 66.5 into 66 consolidation zone. I'll treat that as a buy the dip zone until proven otherwise when it comes to ARM.
Yeah, I think definitely agree with that statement that chips are in play, and you can see that last week you had the chips with the dip, and now we're kind of popping right back above that 450 on NVIDIA. Solid, nice little dip by there off of NVIDIA, nice little support area, and then you can take a look at a lot of these other chips. Very, very solid kind of move off of that pullback kind of happening as well. I know Neil covered the AMD. AMD again, you can see nice little dip and acceleration off into new highs. I like that 129 and that 131 from last week. You can see that Friday low is also 127. So a little bit of a chop and churn, very strong kind of ranging action on Friday. I think the ends of this consolidation range, those I'll definitely be watching very closely, that 131 and that 127. And yeah, I was also looking at, I guess, TSM as well. Bit of a similar story here. Kind of a lot of these chips is ranging. You can see that NVIDIA kind of already broke, AMD kind of broke out. We can take a look at Intel as well. Intel hasn't necessarily done as much of a reversion as some of its other partners there. So maybe Intel with some opportunity today.
All right, Macy's up huge here this morning. It's coming back in a little bit right now, but still 15.5%. On this note, a investor group made up of, I think it's 4 different parties, coming up with this $5.8 billion number for the value of Macy's. Now, keep in mind, this is not by any means done or accepted or even acknowledged at this point, as far as I know, from Macy's. And this would be a take private bid, so there wouldn't be any kind of regulation or regulatory hurdles to pass. They could just take them private if they accept, but a long way to go, I think, before that happens.
Yeah, like you said, four different parties. The 2 main ones, though, Arc House Management and Brigade Capital Management. 5.8 billion is what's being talked about. However, they are willing to actually increase that price when they go through due diligence if it's warranted. So keep an eye out there for the premium. Arc House is essentially a firm that primarily targets real estate investment, and Brigade is Capital is an asset management company. Macy's has been the target of acquisitions as of late because of its slumping sales and the products that it sells. They'd rather do direct to consumer than go through a wholesaler like them and give them some of their profits. You'll recall, Brendo, you and I talking off camera, Kohl's last year was the subject of several bids, all of which were rejected because they said they're undervalued the company.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens here. I mean, yes, warranted being up 15%, but a long way to go before anything actually happens there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's some opportunity to actually trade this today because it's not a firm offer just yet. So that 21 in cash. There was, of course, the talk of possibly a higher bid after some due diligence is done. I think that's what got it to 21 early in the pre-market. When you talk about a deal like this, I think you just want to follow the lead of what the market is telling you. For now, there seems to be buyers underneath the $20 level. I was trading it a little bit earlier. I had some longs in the low 20s. Those don't look, it doesn't look strong. Like where I was long in front, where there were buyers in 2015, 2020, now it looks like there's sellers in that range. So if the buyers come back above 2020, you might see me scalping this to the long side in front of that level. But this is a very different trade than I think most people are accustomed to if you're in retail. You are trying to get smaller moves here. You can probably grab like 10, 15 cent moves on Macy's back and forth if it were to hold this range. I'm not thinking that's likely today. So I'm going to let this settle down in the first 15 to 20 minutes. And if it ends up being that tight, fair enough, then you trade it. But I'm not completely convinced that it isn't going to make some kind of bigger move today. It's a 14% short float. And if there's one thing that short selling firms don't like, it's buyout rumors, because it's just straight lose and they got to cover. Like if you come in today and your firm was short heavy position on Macy's, well, you're just looking for an exit at this point, because unless you could be in, even if you were in the money on your short position, there's just a limited amount for this to work if this deal ends up being firm. So we'll wait Macy's commenting on this. If they decide to accept it, I think the stock probably goes higher, but you still have to keep your ear to the ground, because at this point it's just an unacknowledged offer. I think you can scalp trade it a little bit here, but I'm probably going to sit this one out for the first half an hour.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Macy's with a buyout offer, and then it kind of snaps right up, pretty much trading relatively close to that offer price as well. So very, very interesting going forward. Again, just want to take a quick look left, but the buyout rumor price is at around 21, and yeah, we're right about about a point underneath that. We did visit that in the pre-market roughly, but taking a quick look left here, a bit of support at 19, and we got nothing but air until about this 23 level. So yeah, Macy's definitely a decent look there. And I was looking at some other names that we could potentially look at for the sympathy move with Macy's moving up like this. And I took a look at some of the other department stores in consumer cyclicals, and let me just pull this up right here. Nordstrom catching a little bit of a bid as well in the pre-market here. So maybe we can be looking at this name as well, along with Macy's, for a little bit of a sympathy pop if this move is going to continue back towards the upside. I think I'm looking at the other list of department stores here. I don't really trade this one, but Dillard's as well, not really as affected, but let's see if Kohl's is catching a move off of this. Yeah, a little bit of a sympathy as well, maybe some buying off of that Macy's move. So I think these are good names to stay watching, but Macy's definitely is the main one, as the news is about Macy's.
Let's talk about Snapchat here. We were just talking about this move, November through December, whatever day is today, 11th. 74% for Snapchat since the 1st of November to $16 now. Wells Fargo going to overweight with a $22 price target. So another $5, $6, $7 or so to go here for Snapchat.
Yeah, great premium there. If you agree with that price target, double upgrade today. Well, not double upgrade. They upgraded Snap and Pinterest, so you can tell what their focus is here, and it's on digital ad sales. What they're saying here with respect to Snap is they're reinvesting in their ad tech stack. They're adding new management and a renewed focus by that new management. So we'll have to see how they do, but good luck so far, Brendo.
Yeah, good luck for Evan Spiegel as well. 5% here, guys, trying to get going right now. Actually, decent volume so far this morning.
Yeah, buddy. I mean, Snapchat, if you come right to the chart here, we got about 6 minutes to go. Look, you have a huge gap fill, potentially, let's just say, because it hasn't happened yet. This is $16 going back into mid-2022 as a resistance spot. This is where the stock got shellacked and started trading in the single digits shortly after that. Obviously, 16 is a big level if it can break it out there. I also have marked off, and we had this marked off last week, this 1535 zone on Snap, which now you're finally breaking out from there. So that resistance held really nicely, actually double tapped it, almost getting there on Friday. If you dip down, this is where I like it, that 1535 zone, maybe back even into the quarters. If it's going to sell off, I'd look for that. Otherwise, 16 looks pretty good. Any buyers above 16, I want to join that party to the upside on Snap. We're not going to get a chance, I don't think, and this is adjacent, I suppose. Pinterest just got an upgrade, and it's a very similar gap style play. That's 35 on Pinterest, resistance on the daily that just broke out, gapping above it. So let's see. We closed at 34.91. If it gets back into 35 and that gets supported, then I do like Pinterest as well. So there's a lot of names to look at there. I think both Snapchat and Pinterest are on my early look, especially Snap if it can hold bids above 16.
Yeah, we were talking this morning earlier on about getting with the trend on a larger time frame, and Snap has been doing nothing but trending, especially since its earnings kind of post-earnings consolidation and kind of creeps up towards previous highs and slowly but surely starts to kind of bid up week after week. We've been seeing this run up since about the mid to end of October, since that earnings report, our previous earnings report. But yeah, that 16 level kind of coming in interesting as well. But I'm sure you can throw a nice moving average onto this chart here, as the trend is very, very clear and concise to the upside. So let's see if we can get past that 16, but any dips into that 15 as well, I'll be looking at going forward.
So just an early look on these imbalances. It's only 9.25. At 28, we're going to get bigger updates. You're going to see Palantir is the only significant name. Bets is a penny stock, which is, no, Bets is a cent now? I swear this thing was 3 cents like last week. I mean, I was about to say like yesterday, but yeah, last week, which is wild. That's going to be under 1 cent. That's ridiculous. So nothing too big, but the one name that I want to get to, and we'll get to Palantir in a quick second, Tesla 247. 247 on Tesla. Whether you like it or not, last week that was the resistance zone. Been looking for it to break out that top. Until it does, all you see is higher lows and lower highs pretty much into the same resistance zone at 47. It could be a huge breakout through that price if it can get through. If we do test lower, 237, 238 on Tesla is where I'd be looking to pick that bad boy up. And we always talk about Palantir. Palantir is a pretty good day trading stock. You triple bottom that 17 level. And the next stop would be to make a retest of this 1830. So we had the bottom on its worst day when it failed 20. It then closed right at that 1830 level the following day. If it can get back through there, it's probably a long. But levels like that, when you have a big move down, I tend to think resistance until proven otherwise. So if we don't get through that 1830 zone on this move for Palantir, that is setting up for a pop and fade short idea. Rhodesy, you just named another one that I was going to get to, because anytime I talk about Palantir, the next thing that comes to my mind, or a lot of times comes to my mind, if it's not Snowflake, sometimes it's C3AI. AI made a bounce off the zone I was looking for the breakdown. It never broke down 25.70. In fact, it ends up bouncing higher. 28 has been a big battle zone for this stock for quite some time. This morning, you're going to battle that pretty much right away at the open. Now, 28 resistance, it ended up closing just above there. Look at the tight consolidation off this level. I think if this fails 28 even, you could be at 27.5 for a couple of points very, very quickly on AI. Just understand, if you short bottoms on AI, you got to have AI have a quick out. When I was trying shorts down here, 20 cents worth of risk. Do not want to get trapped at the bottom. It could fill the gap into that downside. But if you get caught the wrong way and you don't have yourself an out, this is what happens. Thankfully, it never actually broke down on Friday. So a couple of names that I'm going to be looking for. Now the imbalances should be out on the NASDAQ. Still not really seeing anything. Palantir, second biggest at 300,000, 380 to buy. You got Apple to sell for 300,000. You got Snapchat, that's a small buy there. But the name that's actually moving out of this group, and I'm talking about the Mag 7, is Softy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Microsoft is sliding here. That's big. That's a big move on the open. I did not see
Apple.
A sell imbalance
what just
there
happened to Apple?
at all. Apple falling as well. Let's see. I don't see anything. I'm not hearing anything in my ear. But at the open, right at 928, I didn't see big imbalances. But both Apple and Microsoft moving solidly to the downside. So maybe we're not going to get that short off 196 on Apple after all. Oh, you've got to be
when a
kidding.
price is so good. When a price is really good.
Sometimes you don't get it. That's the reality. Like, I like that Apple short, but my guess is something just hit, because that's not an imbalance play that we just saw. This is Apple dropped into 191.60. 191.60. I don't know if you're hearing anything, Brennan, but that was a big move to the downside on a couple of big names there. I'm just going to double check things like Meta. What did Meta do? Yeah, Meta with a sell as well. So it looks like that was a lot of the Mag 7 names. I'm sure if something happened to Amazon, you would have told me a second ago there.
It's
but
happening.
Looks like we're getting a little bit of sell-off going into that open, with the exception of the chips. AMD just said, who cares? We're breaking the high. So AMD says we're going up anyways. Relative strength remains in the chip. The 132, I'm still saying it's resistance until it's not. We got about 15 seconds to go, so you know what that means. It means we'll get off me. We're gonna throw it on. We got the bell. Adara's on the bell in just under. Now we got 5 seconds. And 4, 3, 2, 1, and ring it. That was a no-joke move in the market there.
Yeah.
A lot of times that
you
don't want to get caught off guard, but I was thinking short on a couple of names at prices I thought we were going to be able to catch at the open, and now all of a sudden that's not coming into play. Not coming into play at all. I said AMD was strong. It just popped down 70 pennies and broke 130 into the downside. So we are almost immediately getting a move to the downside here, with the exception of Snapchat. So I kind of go back to names that could go on their own. Snapchat's still holding. Can't really seem to break that 16 even either. So I'm going to have to be patient with this. I was looking to sell off tops on Apple, and it's now $3 away from where we wanted to enter that price.
Yeah,
Snapchat's not offering a sell either.
That's absolutely wild. Right off the open, we were talking about how the short could potentially come in real nice, and yeah, a little bit of a front run happening right into the open. A couple of minutes, and Apple does a full ATR on that move, which is absolutely ridiculous. So I think that if you're not already short or you're not chasing the short, then I think a little bit of patience can go a long way. We talked about this in the morning as well. I was watching this 145 on Amazon here, that 145 straight quadunk with the rest of that as well. So let's see where we can go from here. But again, being a Monday, I am going to be a little bit more patient before taking any real shots here. So yeah, let me know in the chat what you guys might be trading today. We'll let some of this volatility kind of calm down before getting involved. Don't want to be chasing any of these lows here. Sure, we could make some more lows, but maybe I'll be watching for that 145, a high coming into that 145 to potentially get involved. I don't necessarily want to chase right off the open there, but yeah, let us know in the chat what other names you guys might be trading.
Apparently Intel's making a move, so I want to get there in a quick second. Like, the only thing that was still setting up was literally the last thing we just talked about, which was AI breaking down. So it broke that 28. I ended up getting 92s, get some out. And again, if you've been watching this show, you know where I'm probably taking profit. Make a decision where you need to, 27.75, and I got a bid out in front of 27.30 as well. So this at least heading to the downside to be able to ring the registrant, but my goodness, that Apple move, it's still, like, we're still healthy to the downside, down 1.5%. So we're getting pretty heavy here. I want to be in I want to be in one of these to the south side. I don't know if we're going to be able to pick up Apple. We already talked about Coinbase as well. So if you're looking at the crypto names, this is also breaking down. That 140 short would have been good too. So let's be a little bit patient here. I'm happy with AI. I'm just unhappy with that move in Apple, because it's like they didn't want anybody to be able to get in above 195. Let's see what happens. If it pops back up, maybe the 194 can be a good short zone. Snapchat's even starting to break down here. So I got C3AI. I wish I could tell you we grabbed another one of those shorts, but unfortunately that was too far to chase. AMD's all of a sudden looking weak. It was Intel that you guys were bringing to our attention. That's a relatively strong name. So I like to go relative strength and weakness, and Intel's above a resistance zone. This could be the one. I mean, look, sometimes you can have a plan of action in the right name. Maybe you get one or two, and sometimes you just got to be able to pivot to something else. And I see above 43. I know 43.35 was a big zone on Intel. If this can hold the open, the NASDAQ is trying to take tops in this move, which is crazy.
Yeah, we're a little kind of strong on the NQ, not as strong on the ES there. I'm watching again. We were looking at those ranges on Uber, and Uber kind of coming into that 61 once again. But before we continue, I want to pass it off to Adara at the big desk.
Yeah, watch out for some of these crypto-related stocks seeing lower trading right now. Riot dropped way off right at the open, even though it was trading lower pre-market as well. Same thing with Mara here, down over 10%, dropping right at the open. Guys, keep an eye on those crypto names.
Yeah, look, this is definitely a strong move here in Intel. I'm probably going to guess Micron is strong as well, but this 43.3 was already in place. And look, the NASDAQ is absolutely flying. I just heard Sharif under his breath say loud enough for us to hear, how is the NASDAQ flying when some of those names just all dropped? Well, because you're getting it everywhere except for that Mag 7. Yeah. So you got to find the strength wherever it happens to be, not where you want it to be, where the strength certainly is trading right now. Now, Apple is showing signs of a bounce. It's Intel I want if we're going to get something. Wow, Microsoft. Look at the bounce in Microsoft. That is a bullish reversal.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty bullish reversal on Microsoft. If we hold on to 16.25 on the NASDAQ, I mean, whoever was buying down there, I don't mind joining you in Microsoft, because when you get a wipeout bottom like that at the open, I feel like you trapped a few shorts in there, and then it's worth to take the party in the other direction.
Yeah, it was a wild move there. Kind of, we stayed a little patient for that Amazon move I talked about. Kind of, I want to see it coming back into that 145 to look a little heavy, and it did exactly that. Kind of bids right back up into 144, 70s and 80s. Can't really get that far. I want to interact with that 145, and yeah, so not really planned to go short underneath it. I was looking a little bit more for that continuation long, maybe push towards that 147, 148. But if we don't get it, we kind of revamp the plan and kind of adjust our basis here. That 61 on Uber, Neil, I totally missed that one. I was watching it there. I was watching it hold, and that 61 level, a bit of a consolidation area from last week, and that hold was very clean. Kind of couldn't really get below the 10s there. I'm gonna piece out of this Amazon right now as we kind of bid right back up into that 144, and yeah, we'll come back to it a little bit later there. That NQ move kind of slams right back in to this pre-market kind of pre-market session consolidation there as well. You can see that the ES didn't even get that far, so that's a very interesting move. A little bit of a strong lick grab of 16.3s on the NQ, and yeah, potentially good reason to cover here as well on Amazon, as we don't really continue that momentum to the downside underneath 144. Sure, we can make some lower highs as well, but the idea was to interact with that 145, and we did a little bit of that. So on to the next. I'm watching a little bit of a Coinbase here as well. We know that Bitcoin is in play today, so that 140 here, let me just pull up the chart here so you guys can get a better view of what I'm looking at as well. So Coinbase right here. Take a look at some of this strength off of last week's Friday. Some strong action off of previous day's consolidation. We can see that it has some good volume on the week, and we're getting bought back up through that 140 area on Coinbase. So let's take a look and see if some of this pre-market range highs can get broken on Coinbase. What's going on, Neil?
So a couple of things here. Intel just made another fresh high. This is absolutely, it's flying to the upside. It's powered up. I was able to get something at 44s in there. A lot of times I'm guilty of not getting into this. Like, I'll be way too patient looking for the precise entry point. Not today. Just gonna join the party where we can. I tried to add to this at 51s. We just broke 60 and we're at 66. We're gonna continue the party to the upside there. However, I mean, if the market's gonna try to fly, look at the move back up in some of these names. Like AI, which was absolutely flushing, bounces 27.5. I get a refill right at 28, and then it starts screaming through the high. Now, that's a bad wick, and that's a bad out. I'll acknowledge it. The quarter should have been the stop and not the 20. But I want to be more calm with this one. It's held 18.25. There is a chance that could just be a wick top. But the way this market just went to the upside, it's a good thing we're able to pivot and find a long. I got another one that sets up here, and it's going to be a firm. So shout out to anyone that had this. Look at the liquidity grab under 42. That's obvious. And it goes right into 43. Affirm is an example of one of those stocks that only wants to go up, at least recently, so you take the stairs to the upside when it wants to go. 42.40 previous high, that's where I'll look for the dip buy consolidation on Affirm. Right now, Intel is absolutely flying. Shout out to everyone that said this was strong. It gets into 44, you know me and the even dollars on Intel. That's always a resistance level until proven otherwise. 45, I think, is a sell on Intel, but we're headed pretty much for a 1% move in a matter of just minutes. It's only 9:40. That's wild. Intel usually pulls back after the first little bit. So pretty happy to have captured that And now I can look at a more calm Apple. Okay, so Apple's coming down, and it's not necessarily looking strong. I wish I could tell you, 96 is going to happen for the short. Heck, maybe we'll even get 95. That doesn't look very likely at all. So with the market looking strong, if Apple can't get above 193.5, sometimes you just got to grit your teeth and short it at a price you weren't willing to short before.
Yeah, so a little bit of a strength there on Uber. We talked about how strong that 61 is, but coming back up into these high of days, looking a little bit weak. So I am kind of, I guess, just dabbling on a little bit of the short there, kind of keeping it tight there. Let's see how strong this buying pressure really is. We did miss out on that 161, but that pre-market high, a little bit of a slowdown near pre-market highs there on Uber. So let's see if that comes right back down. But before that, we're going to go to the desk with Adara.
Just be aware of Netflix right now. NFLX seeing a bit of higher trading, up about 2% after getting a price target increase from Guggenheim from 460 to 500. Not as much volume right now, but definitely picking up. Keep an eye on this one, guys.
Oh, I mean, the volume is through the roof on the NASDAQ. I mean, first of all, if you're trading and just tuning in now, make sure you change your futures contract and follow the H contract. So that's going to be the forward contract. That's where you want to be on those futures. We are bouncing higher. Ooh, I just got Apple. I want to reload that. Intel if I get an opportunity on the way back in. But Apple just broke back underneath 193, so I'm going to go for the short here. I thought we'd get 96s. Obviously, things changed at the open. If it gets through 193.5, I'll give up the ghost on that one. But Comp SRX, shout out to you. And hey, Alibaba with the lit grab under and a potential breakout. So just shout out to you. That is a big gap fill if this can get through the 71. That's a good setup, generally speaking, for these Chinese ADRs. And Advanced Micro Devices, it tried to get to 131, could not break it. That's Friday's high. The lower high, 130, going to be firmly in play all of a sudden. So let's look for this 130 level, see what it does here. This and Apple are the big cap tech names that I'm going to be on this morning, for lack of a better something better to come out into play. 132, I guess we're not going to see it. So this 130, if buyers win above, fair enough, but it looks like there's already some sellers starting to win at this 130. The market's absolutely flying, which is wild. I can't seem to get Intel. Intel won't go past 85. I might have to get out of it right here and then go for the dip buy.
Yeah, that's the strength on the NQ coming right back in as Uber kind of pushes right back into that 62 mark. High of last week, 62.25. So we're pretty much knocking on the door of that level there. I am in a little bit of a cheeky short once again, but you know what? If the buying pressure is going to stay that strong and we break above that 62, I'm going to be gone. The idea was to take it back through that 62 on a failed breakout there, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I give it less than about 15 pennies there to kind of test that idea, and we are out of there. And it seems like Uber might be about to make some new highs above this 62 relative to last week. So that strength definitely happening. The short is definitely not it right now, and with the NQ kind of doing what it's doing, and now the ES kind of looking very similar there. That 145 coming right back in on Amazon. So let's see if we can have a little bit more of the same here. I'm going to be a little bit more patient right now for that 145. You guys can see that we did get short on the initial pop into that 145, but right now, as of right now, a dip into 144 got bought, and we're pushing right back into 145 as the market is raging to the upside. I do not want to necessarily get short right away. I do want to stay a little bit more patient and maybe a little bit more vigilant for that 145 to potentially look a little heavy there. That 62 coming right back in on Uber. So you know what? I do want to get involved there if it has already kind of made a high above that 62. That was the idea there. Thanks, Neil. But yeah, the idea was the 62. But if 62 is going to look a little bit choppy, we do want to stay a little bit involved right now, as it was part of a little bit of the plan. Again, Uber kind of very strong on the multi-day, and it's already done about 2 points off the open there. So you guys know a quick thing I like to check is the ATR of of a ticker there, and the ATR of Uber is about 1.5 points, and we've done about 1 point off the lows there, off pre-market lows, and about 0.5 point off the pre-market highs as well. So just looking for a little bit of a potential pullback underneath that 62. Now, if we don't get that, that's perfectly fine as well. I will be more than willing to respect that pressure if that does come in. But yeah, just looking for a little bit of waves of price action there, Neil. Kind of healthy price action,
Well,
I think tends to come in waves.
I like the situational awareness that you're displaying there,
Nice.
Obi. And a couple of things just to go back over. I've now put a trail on Intel. I'll show you why in a second, but I want to start with Apple here. Like, Apple just failed 193.40 a second time as the market's breaking out. So you are getting, remember, this all happened right before the open, like that flush to the downside. So technically speaking, we made a higher low at the open and then tried to press higher. There, in some ways, that's a little bit bullish, but I want to respect the initial move, and my read was short off 196. So, you know, you never got a chance at 196. If we never break this, I gotta look to add to this short position if I can. I was looking for over 193. I don't know if we get it, but AMD, so Apple looking okay for the short. AMD all of a sudden shooting to the upside. We grabbed the short 70s. It just broke out the top there at 130. So I do not want to fight it. It either works right away or I wait for a better price. So it doesn't work right away. It shows too much strength. You get out of it and hang on to the one that is working and give it some room to work. If we get 192.5, I can take some out there on Apple. Keenan, how is it possible the NQ is ripping when all the big caps are at least 1% to the downside? I understand that that's not normal, but the Mag 7 aren't the entire, they're a really big portion of the market. They are not the entire market. And the other thing about it too is that's the kind of question I'm going to ask myself when things calm down. I want to trade price action first. You know, like Apple right now looks weak. I get it. The market's flying. I went over and found a stock that was to the long side. And to be honest with you, I didn't even find the damn thing. Everybody in the chat was yelling about Intel is strong. I'm like, what the heck is moving the markets to the upside? My roommate at university used to speak that way, and it's one of my favorite things to say. Anyways, look, I didn't realize what was going in that moment, but the second I saw the chart of Intel, is it above a resistance zone? Is there buyers above it? Yes. Is market strong? Yes. Just go long and stair step it to the upside. Now my trail's at 43.75 and it's working. We're at 44. This would be the spot that I'd look to cover some, to get out of it actually. I usually want to get out at 44, but I'm going to let it ride through the break. If it fails this break, I probably dump it at 85 because that's where the key level was before. As a matter of fact, let me get that stop in right now. It's not our job to necessarily, in the heat of the moment, if you're a trader, to say this is what's happening in the market and this is why it's happening. I just want to note the relative strength and weakness where I can. I want to be adding to Apple short above 193. I want to be dip buying if I can Intel. I want to note the fact that AMD is about to take out the top, so it's a good thing getting out of that. AMD taking out highs while NVIDIA is still hanging around the lows. So this is not all the chips that are going into the upside. You've got to be on the right ones. Mara apparently is making some big moves here. Let me just double check that. It was Coinbase that I was going to be in. Yeah, wow, Mara's down 9%. Mara went down 10% and wicked 15 even. That could be a bit of an SSR bounce on Mara. I'd watch out for that. That could be a spicy one to the upside because it went SSR. So good look there on Mara.
Yeah, so I'm watching some of these chips here. Again, that 145 coming right back in. I think we might be getting stopped out of that Uber trade soon enough. But I do want to pull up this AMD as it's starting to get going right now. That 130 held really well. 131 coming right back in. That was last week's high, and now we are pushing or attempting to push towards some newer highs above this 131. So let's see how far we can get there. Some strong action on this mover here. A multi-day move happening on AMD here through this 131. No real size on the book there. Let me pull it up for you guys so you guys can take a quick look at it right here on the NQ. So yeah, that 131 didn't really have any size there, and we kind of just pushed through it, kind of cut through it right like butter, and yeah, we're just chopping and churning on that 31. But yeah, very, very strong here, kind of moving along with some of these other names there. Now I'm looking at NVIDIA as well. NVIDIA, that 270 kind of coming in right there. We dropped all the way down to 466 on NVIDIA off of that move there. Let me just quickly pull this up right here. Okay, so I can actually show you guys what I'm talking about as I'm talking about it. And yeah, take a look. NVIDIA very different in terms of sentiment there. That 131 really going there off of no size. But again, we're breaking through these pre-market levels as well quite distinctly, and we have a little bit of a multi-time frame bid going on as well. But yeah, that dip getting bought up pretty hard in the same place where we found some strength there on Friday on NVIDIA. So I think I want to wait and see if some of these buyers are actually legit, and if they kind of come in and hold this base here on NVIDIA. This seems like it was a little bit of an interesting level last week. We consolidated into it on Thursday, and on Friday we broke out of that base right there, and today we come slamming right down with that heavy market pressure. And take a look at where the bid kind of catches there. 465. I think that if we consolidate for long enough, we can kind of continue off this level. That 131 on AMD blasting off right now.
I don't know
Wow.
if I don't know if those bids are legit in NVIDIA, but they're too legit to quit in AMD. That's for damn sure. Intel, I just got out of Intel on the pullback, and it looks like the right call. 44 got wicked. It just came back to that 85 zone. We're able to get 40s. If you get a point on Intel, usually I'm pretty happy with talking about a percentage point on Intel. So we'll take it. I want to look to stair step into the upside because the NASDAQ is strong. VWAP doesn't necessarily matter, but the first zone where I thought there was any selling ended up being wrong, but it was at 43.6, and I'm looking for a consolidation dip. We stuck with Apple to be the short trade, and it's worked a couple of times, but if I'm going to be adding to this, it's adding above that 193.25, I think, is the zone to be adding to this. If it breaks out the half, I think I want to get the heck out of Dodge. But let's go to the desk. We got Adara.
Another chip name just to keep an eye on here, Broadcom, AVGO, very strong. All green candles this morning after open, up almost 5%. Citigroup had reinstated a buy rating with a $1,100 price target, and this one also did have earnings last week, so definitely a name to watch. Outside strength here, AVGO.
The chips are definitely flying at this point, but I'm telling you, like, Tesla is asleep. Meta is asleep. Apple's trying to wake up a little bit, but AMD just did the 132 play. Oh, you gotta be. Yeah. That's Neil missing 130. It'll happen.
Wow, damn.
So we did I waited for the fail breakout setup on AMD 132. I mean, congratulations, you caught that. Old man hands too slow, man. I guess I'm as slow as the Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers at this particular point. That was a perfect setup on a fail break of 132 with that key level. Gets all the way down to 131.50, but you can see the rejection out there on AMD at that 132. That's a level we like, but you got to be really quick on the hands to have gotten that one, or quick on the keys, I should say, to be able to catch that one. I know where I was going to go. Need to get back to Coinbase for you guys. Coinbase, I don't suspect this is going to be the range for the entire day, but it's just back and forth. $2 of consolidation, which is wild. It's a big range. I expect this is going to be a mover. For now, it is underneath that support. If it fails 140, I think you take the stairs to the downside, but it's hard to do when the market has been this strong. Got to acknowledge that you have some market strength in here. Apple has worked to the south side. I'm going to hang on to this. I think I can get a chance at the 192 to grab $1 out of it. And Intel, we did get out in front of 44. Again, you know my style of trade. I'm going to take the profit and run on a breakout trade, make sure we bank it, and then look for the next place to get in. That looks like 43.5. Micron is also very strong. It cleared out 76. I don't know. Look, for Micron, come to my chart for a second here. Can we come to my chart quick? There we go. 77.40 where it's battling. This was a good sell zone on Micron. So if you're looking this instead of Intel or AMD for whatever reason, look at the battle happening. 77 even to that resistance at 77.40. If the buyers win out above, I think you look for a continuation long on this name as well. AMD's right back at 132.
So a lot of people were asking again why the NQ is running so hard, and a lot of these other names are kind of quadunking to the downside there, Neil. And take a look at who I found may be one of the culprits, I guess, of that move there. Again, this ticker here is, again, we tend to forget some of the weightings happening on the NQ, but AVGO Broadcom is definitely up there, right behind the Mag 7. Kind of take a look at this move right off the open. That 950 pushing right into that 1,000 mark. Now I know AVGO is quite a heavily priced ticker, but I do have eyes on it as it is quite a heavy kind of a constituent in the markets there. And take a look at that 1,000 test kind of coming in. And yeah, definitely if you're looking for tickers that are looking a little bit closer to the NQ today, AVGO is the answer there. That 950 to 1,000 kind of a push. That 992.87 is the high as of right now. But yeah, take a look at that consecutive kind of bar strength, very, very strong, straight to the upside kind of happening there. So yeah, I saw a couple people in the chat saying, is AVGO going to get to 1,000 today? Well, it's already done about 43 points off the open. It's only about 8 points away from that high. But yeah, let's see whether or not that can come in. But if you take a quick look left on this chart, you can see that all-time highs is pretty much right there at that 1,010, 109.47 being the high there. Now let me just make sure that is the case. Yeah, that is the case right there. That is all-time highs. Take a look at this kind of consolidation build-up, a bit of a flag happening underneath that 900 before we start to push to the upside. So yeah, we're knocking on the door of all-time highs on AVGO. Again, another kind of a chip maker, semiconductor name, not really looking like NVIDIA at all as of right now, but taking the mantle for the lead for sure today.
So Michael B has a good theory that you could see some, healthy rebalancing so that you have some sell on some of the Mag 7, and then to reweight that, you'd have to have the Qs, other names in the Qs get a little bit stronger. So that could make that obviously makes a little bit of sense there, but the price action is what it is. So you see Obi likes Amazon short, I like Apple short. I just let the market dictate it. This looks like it's weak, so I want to short a weak name. AMD continues to pull back off that 132 zone to be sure, but I want a piece of the Coinbase pie. If it's gonna do this, and when I say this, I just showed you guys this range, this $3 range. I want a piece of the top here. And if I can get shorts into 142, then I can risk 50 to 60 cents and try and capture this range into the downside. Bonkzilla in the chat there pointing out DocuSign on the move to the upside. Yeah, I can't really say that name without putting a smile on. There's DocuSign. I like when things take the stairs to the upside. So I'm only in the one short. I'm looking for a chance to get back into Intel. It's not really setting up just yet. But DocuSign could pull back into 50.5 and still be a buy. That looks like a pretty solid one. If it's gonna go higher from here, I need to break out the top and show me another level that isn't just that 50-50 level. But I do want to respect the strength that we're already seeing there. It got thrown in the chat by multiple people that Netflix is powering higher. Ooh. So I've got my eyeballs on a few names that. Thank you, Daily Chart. On a few names that are looking relatively strong. I've talked about Intel, Micron. We just showed you DocuSign. Netflix would be in that pocket as well. If the NASDAQ can kind of hold on to this strength and we actually stair-step it up, you don't want to be getting back into some long plays after dipping out of that Intel pretty quick.
Yeah, so just taking some quick scalps off of the Amazon move. We can see how volatile this ES and this NQ are moving around there. So yeah, a little bit of a again, we talked about that 145. I kind of wanted to interact with that 145, and it comes in quite beautifully, kind of showing the right kind of price action and order flow at that level happening on the tape. So we do get a little bit involved, and again, the NQ kind of helping us along, giving us a little bit of luck with the wickiness off of these highs as Amazon stays a little bit relatively weak. Now again, not the only one who's relatively weak. We can take a look at Apple, Softy, Alphabet kind of coming back into its opening levels there. So not as I guess weak there on the alpha, but Apple definitely weak to the downside. That 195. Oh boy, I do have it written down on that sticky note. I did want to interact with that 195. But Neil, we talked about in the morning, if it's a great price, if it's a good price, we're probably not going to stick around there for very long. And that 195 really sorry.
Oh no. Oh, I'm the worst.
What's going on?
Oh, keystroke error.
All right.
It happens.
But yeah, that we talk about like good prices not sticking around, and I think that 195 is a prime example of that price acceleration right away from that
Woo-saw.
195.
Woo-saw.
What's going on?
No, just sometimes you go to put a stop order and you punch out. So AMD, just come to my chart for a second. That's a good one. You put fat fingers on the bottom there, Fabian. That's good. Yeah, that's good. So there, AMD.
I didn't even see it. I missed that one.
No, he had fat finger on the bottom, and the definition of what a fat finger is. Technically, it wasn't really a.
Oh wow,
no,
that is.
No, it
nice.
wasn't.
I like
it wasn't
that.
really the same thing as a fat finger. But if we come to my chart for a second, this is 132 on AMD. I went to put a stop order. I just got back in. So the high is 132.20. I went to throw a stop and actually punched out of it. But then it came all the way back into the bottom of the range. So I'm looking to capture this range. I understand this is a strong stock, okay? So it is trending to the upside, but 132 was my sell zone, and it's the daily chart. There it is. Like there's your resistance at 132. So I've been looking to short the top end of this range. Already gotten it and then kind of accidentally out. Now we'll look to see if it can push back into 131.5 to get another exit out of this. We're going to go to happening now in just a quick second with Adara as I scalp some out. But Intel doesn't seem to want to get to VWAP for me. If it breaks 44 and I see buyers above, I join above 44 as well. But let's get right on over to the desk as we just got some AMD out and we're probably adding right back into it. Let's go to happening now with Adara.
No number right now, but there will be a whole week ahead of lots of economic data, including CPI tomorrow, PPI coming up on Wednesday here, so keep an eye on all of those. We also have the Fed meeting this week too, so lots of economic data down the pipeline. Right now, pretty much just dancing around that 0% mark here, just slightly positive right now on the S&P 500, the SPY there. In terms of individual stocks that are moving, we are still seeing some weakness here in these crypto-related names, including Mara, as Bitcoin took quite the tumble to the downside earlier in the pre-market. We also have JD on watch, one of the few names that was announced that will be removed from the NASDAQ 100 index. This one did see a little bit of strength earlier in the day, now trading a bit lower. Once again, still down about 3.5%. Last but not least, Snapchat still up about just below 4% after getting an upgrade from Wells Fargo to overweight and raising the price target from $8 to $22. So definitely one to watch here as well. Brought to you by Surge Trader, where traders can get a funded trading account up to $1 million and keep up to 90% of the profits. The program has simple rules, no time limits. Just go to surgetrader.com/TTV and use the promo code TTV for 10% off.
Thank you very much, Adara. And guess what's strong? Chips. But you'll see me long Intel and short AMD. Just to give you an idea of what just happened in AMD, I was looking for 131 quarter, like this entire move, and buyers came in at a higher level. So it is very, very strong here, no questions about it. I just took 2/3 out there at the 60s because that's what the stock is telling me to do off of this level. I might reload it one more time. That's above 132 instead of underneath it. And I'll try to get like 10s, giving it into that quarter level, and then still work this level to the south side. If it breaks out from here and we're just buying above 132 quarter, maybe into the half, I probably reverse to the long side. We just got that top on coin. So coin 141.5 into 142. I want to try and play this range. It's been a $3 range that I've sat out in Coinbase, but if it wants to hold this range, I am more than happy to trade inside of it. Just going to throw a bid, so we're locked and loaded and ready to go. And then the other one, we're back into the long. It's not where we thought we'd be back into the long on Intel, but you know what? Sometimes you buy high and sell higher. I don't know what to tell you, but in trading, and a stock is strong, it doesn't give you the price that you want sometimes on a pullback. So that's exactly what happened here. Instead, we're going higher. I got 05s when buyers showed up above 44 on Intel. Micron is also strong. I think the next step would be I don't know, 44.20, because, no, I'm just kidding. The quarters is usually where I like to get something out, but I think it's starting to slow with the rest of the market, so I might take a scalp trade if it breaks 10s. This market is looking like it wants to pull back. Apple has been cruising, so we're not worried about that. It's, of course, AMD and Coinbase. AMD with a bull flag, Coinbase with a range-bound trade that we're looking to short into. And Chris asking in the chat, why is Meta tanking? Oh, this is just as good as Apple, 325. So look at 325. This is a better setup than Apple in some ways. This is the short in Apple. Meta is much weaker down at 325. It's a very similar setup, but this one is much closer to those lows. I like that 325 short. I don't know why it's tanking, but I don't care. 325 looks like a good level on Meta.
Yeah, see a couple people here in the chat. Simplicity and I guess Grief talking about Lulu. We saw how strong Lulu was on Friday, and yeah, take a look at this, Neil. Kind of consolidating near its upper quartile, kind of at the end of the day there. Neil saying AMD's breaking out of that 132. I see it right there, done about 50 pennies off that 132 as well. But yeah, that 500 push on Lulu, bit of a continuation move of that strong momentum we got off of earnings day one. Again, we talk about earnings day two, and this is such a beautiful example of a strong earnings day one and then consolidation into the end of the day. And right off the open, you have a strong continuation move. So very, very clear where Lulu is trying to get there. That 500 breaking and that 501 kind of coming in right away. So yeah, maybe potentially some newer highs there on Lulu. Are these all-time highs? I don't know, but let's take a quick look here on the hourly, and we can go a little bit further back on the monthly. And yeah, it would seem as if these are all-time highs here, Neil. So yeah, Lulu kind of pushing towards all-time highs. Now we talk about this, a lot of these names kind of poised for that all-time high test. Again, we were talking about Apple in the morning, but we kind of got that strong flush off the open there. But some of these names like Lulu are testing newer highs as well.
Well, that was a bit of a wash. Okay, not like a wash like you guys think about it for me. It's not a wash trade, but what we just made in Intel, the last reload on AMD loss, so it'll be flat between the two, because I reloaded above 132 after it was smart getting most of it out here, 131.6. It was not smart reloading, obviously. AMD's now breaking out above 132. I am going to look to flip this into the long above 132, and as that was kind of going against, the next leg up happened on Intel. So we did get the win, and then we got the hit on AMD that kind of washed out. I was able to get underneath 141 on Coinbase, but this is a scalp trade into an uptrend. So VWAP looks like the exit here down at 140. So I'm going to see if we can't get that. That'd be just over $1. We're risking 50 to 60 cents here. Got some at 1-to-1, which is always going to be part of the plan. And I'm just going to get my bid out there. Just want to make sure you're taking that out when you can get it. So Intel's strong. I need to find a way to jump into the long on AMD because it's above key resistance. And even Apple. Like, look at Apple. Like, Apple is now no longer flying to the downside here, so I might have to trail this. I don't need this getting back above 193. I should have gotten 192 by now. Let's go to the desk with Adara.
METC here, Ramaco Resources on watch now, seeing a little bit of recovery, but definitely trading to the downside, still down about just below 7% here after a short report from Wolfpack. Sorry. So keep an eye on METC, guys.
Wolfpack. Sorry, I chuckle because there was a friend of mine on our baseball team that we used to say he had to be raised by wolves, just based on how wild the guy was. Fun dude at a party. I'll definitely give you that. But now I can. Oh my goodness, Tesla. Tesla's breaking 240 to the downside. Okay, where's Rivian? Where is Rivian? Is Rivian? So if we're already breaking down, Rivian's under 19. Sorry, guys, I knew 19 was a bit of an inflection point on Rivian. That's why my mind went there when I saw Tesla going down. So if Tesla's failing, I want to look for maybe a short on Rivian if that sets up underneath that 119. I do have to monitor this Coinbase. It got down there and printed me underneath 141, but it's still relatively strong and trying to take out that top. We're flat and underneath 42,000 on Bitcoin, so that does support this resistance at 142, but if I reload, it has to be at a better price. I got 140, 144. I'd need tighter to 142 if we're going to catch a reload on Coinbase. Apple is working to the downside, but it's just not, the market's probably too strong for it to absolutely fly. And as for picking up AMD on the reversal, I'll cancel this bid because I'm not going to get it. It's about where to get in, and I didn't chase, and I should have chased. Sometimes if you chase, it would have worked out. It doesn't mean it was the right thing to do. I thought I needed something a little bit closer to 132. This is now flying. You're through resistance on AMD. Took a couple shots at it. Thankfully, was able to scalp some profits on AMD, so it's not a total loss. But this should have been a reversal at 132.25 to be sure. And if you're still following along, chips are strong. Meta is dying. Okay, it's not dying, but it's failing off this 325 zone. This works both ways, guys, everybody. If it breaks, say, 325 half, 326, this could fly to the upside just because of how it's coiled. But I think the 325 short makes a lot of sense. Now, I picked Coin to go short, and I'm in Apple, but this might have been just as good there at the 325. So if you got it, I think you have a decent trade on. And where can it go from here? Well, that's 322. That's easy to see. Support to resistance. And from there, 318. So you got a couple of good levels to the downside for that to work for you. This NASDAQ is still strong, but it hasn't been that hard to find some big tech shorts if you wanted them.
Yeah, it's definitely giving a lot of decent opportunities there across the board there as well. Getting a little bit short here on this AMD kind of move. Do have to kind of type this in, but that 132.
AMD's a rocket ship. Dude.
Yeah, rocket ship. I think I am kind of getting in the way of this name here, so I do want to piece out. I do want to keep it relatively tight in and around this 133 as of right now. That 145 coming right back in on Amazon as well. So I am watching that. Kind of again, we talk about being a little bit more patient. I think I was a little patient on Amazon, not being as patient there on AMD, but that volatility really happening, kind of pushing into that. Again, we talked about that 129, we talked about that 130 and that 131 as well, and we've kind of claimed all of those levels and pushed to the upside right into that 133. So about a 4.5 point move roughly off the open there on AMD. Very strong to the upside. Again, very similar, looking very similar there to that of the NQs and some of the other chips there. We kind of talked about why this might be poised for a nice push in the morning session there, and we're getting some of that action coming into fruition there. That 145 staying a little bit heavy there. NQ at new levels there, Neil. Can't stop, won't stop. It just keeps on going.
The only thing that can't stop, won't stop is us trading the markets every single day. But you're right. Like, this NASDAQ is pretty relentless here. I don't know what to tell you, but like, I'm looking over at AMD, and it's up this 3%. It is an absolute rocket. I will point out, like, I was in the short. There's just no way. 32 was the level. I missed the first trade and still wasn't able to get much out of the second. Well, okay, the second and third, and the third one was absolutely ridiculous. I'm just seeing a long. It's a matter of getting in a way that makes sense. You can like it as a long all you want. It's just, you have to find yourself an entry, which is the trade part of it. There's a wick high at 133.75. I would suppose that could turn into resistance for now. I mean, Apple just broke $1 in the money, and the low of the day is 191.50. I'll be out in front of that. Coinbase is working, but I'd much rather find a way to catch the ride on some other train in the chip space than worry about celebrating the short. So Intel holding 44 is pretty good. Might be a reload off this 44 level. Maybe VWAP. We'll see what you can do. But wow, I mean, I'm still seeing AMD is an absolute rocket ship to the upside. These chips are strong. You can look at Micron as well. That's going to give you some opportunities. Coinbase, we're just going to have to respect the strength that we're seeing. If it's only going to give me 50, 60 cents, that 1-to-1, maybe that's it, but it's still holding that resistance zone for me. So coin looks okay, but I don't know how long that's going to last. This market is very strong. And it's an opportunity, I think, when things start breaking out to join some of these late breakers. That could be coin. That could even be Meta if it can take out 325.50, but you're still getting lower highs in Meta. Apple week, Meta weak, that's the bigger thing. And AMD, you might just want to scalp every single dip if you can. I have one red candle on my 3-minute chart, which is wild, which is telling you how strong that stock is. It's just a matter of getting some kind of a dip, because this is the time of day I'm not buying breakouts. Not going to happen. Like 133 dip, maybe like the 20s or something like that, but this is way too wild to the upside to fight.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right on that. I am fighting a very strong move there. A little bit of a degeneracy on my part, getting involved on the front side of the move like this. But yeah, I think got to keep it a little bit relatively tight
well,
to
if it
that
turns, it'll be $1. It's just
I think that when it does turn, you can see the volatility that's kind of happening, and I am getting a little bit of FOMO there. We saw how the turn off that 132 was when selling does step right back in. So I think that's what I kind of I'm getting that little bit of a FOMO off of that price action. I did get involved a little too early there. In and around that 133. So again, nothing too crazy there, nothing too huge, but I do want to wait for this kind of move to come in to get aggressive for a push back to the downside. But it seems as if we are not going to really have, or we haven't really been having that as of right now on AMD, as that 133.70 is kind of coming in as well. Kind of 133.5 had a little bit of a hold, but I think, Neil, you're definitely right on that. If you can scalp real fast on those dips are about 20 pennies, 30 pennies, and they keep on getting bought up. But I think that when this momentum kind of starts to slow down and starts to come in, we will have just as aggressive of a potential pullback. But again, that's just speculation on my part. I'm just looking at this volatility and
one thing you got to watch out for. Sorry.
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no worries.
One thing you got to watch out for is when you're looking for a short. Sharif and Adara were talking about this. Confirmation bias is a you-know-what.
Yes.
Because it is, trust me when I tell you, it is really easy to see reasons for a top. Just watch that tape, because the tape is going to tell you the story sometimes, and it's still looking very strong to me on AMD. Just one note on Apple here. There is a seller and a battle at 192.20s into the quarters. So I've trailed it above the quarters. Because if that breaks, that seller down here, which was just underneath this opening range bottom, right at 935, if that seller breaks, I think it gets back into VWAP. If it holds, I think we see the low of the day, which is 191.50-ish. So I'm going to hold out for that low, but I now have a trail lower in Apple for those reasons. AMD, I mean, like for the love of... Like I keep saying it's strong, and it's like, I like buying dips and not tops. The high of the day is 133.99. I'm really telling myself I don't want to just take a break at 144, because that seems insane. So let's look for it to fail 144, maybe pull back into 33 or something. If you just shorted 134, you would have been fine. Intel, just going back over to this one. Oh, come on. Are we doing this? Really? That's what we're doing? We're doing that story? We got to go into the Dallas Cowboys? Okay, we'll see what's up in a week, man. We know what's up in a week. For now, I'm just going to do this. How come it's not working? Animations are down. So I was going to say congratulations if you were short in Apple and Meta and probably nothing else. But I'm now out. It bounced off 192. I talked about that seller at the quarters. They just broke them. I'm not flipping into a long trade on Apple down there, but it's enough for me to get out of the short. Why Brothers United wants to know what's up with NVIDIA. I don't know. It's weak. I don't know what to tell you. AMD strong, NVIDIA weak. I mean, the other chip names have been pretty good too. Micron, Intel's off those highs as well, so I want to respect those for being strong. But at the end of the day, you've just got to trade the price action. I can't tell you necessarily why something is happening. That's for analysts after the stock is down 2% to be able to tell you NVIDIA was down 1.8% today, leading all of the chip names to the downside for blah, blah, blah. And then they insert a bunch of reasons after the fact. So I don't know. I can just tell you it's relatively weak. As we are now, AMD wants to pull back in. Of course it does. I think Meta's the one. Like, I think if we're reloading shorts, I know Apple's weak and I know Meta's weak. I'd look for those two first. Did you get AMD short?
Yeah, I literally got capitulated. I'm like, okay, I know I'm a little too early there, and I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna let this go too far. I get out. I'm literally at the top, and it comes right back in into some of these lows. But yeah, let's see. Again, nothing too crazy. Still well within, I think, well within the uptrend there as well. So again, we might still be a little too early, but yeah, first signs of a little bit of strong selling. We saw that we did get some strong selling a little bit earlier as well, kind of in this area underneath that 132. We saw how strong that quadunk off that 132 was back into that 131 level, and then now we're getting a little bit of a slowdown once again at that 134. So yeah, I was way too early, kind of getting a little too anticipatory into that 133 with that flow kind of slowing down as well. But I think this 134 may be a little bit better, kind of poised for that retest for that VWAP, right? We can see that it's been bought up multiple times over the past week or so, and VWAP has been pretty strong. So I think a little bit of a reversion back into VWAP is well within that healthy price action here. But yeah, very, very strong on the day, along with the NQs. Still don't want to get involved with this Amazon here. Now, something else, I saw that I was still short on Uber, and it kind of it was coming in real hot to the upside there. So what I did, well, I had a stop in, but I guess the stop didn't trigger, and I was like, oh, what the hell? It doubled up the position instead of getting me out, and I was like, okay, well, I definitely don't want to be in that trade. So I did piece off of that Uber kind of move there. That 133 coming right back in. So that 134 fail was quite beautiful there. That 133. Let's see if that momentum is actually turned to the downside here. That consolidation from earlier could be a potential area of buyers, of potential resistance turn support on the intraday on top of that 132 is what I'm looking for here. But I do understand and realize that I am a little bit counter trend, so I do want to stay as nimble as possible on the counter trend. That initial kind of short way too early there, but let's see how well we can hold this one for some profits. I'm just looking for a potential VWAP kind of for it to come into VWAP a little bit stronger. But again, that 133, a little bit interesting level there. So I do want to take a little bit off if it'll have me. Okay, right there. It took some more off underneath that 133. Let's see if we can get back down to that VWAP. But before that, I'm going to pass it over to the bid desk with Adara.
Yeah, some interesting small caps moving right now, including IONM. This is Assure Holdings. No news on this one that I could find from today, but on Wednesday in late November, they basically announced that they received a non-compliance notice from NASDAQ. We're pulling back a little bit right now, still up about 65%. We also have Faraday Futures. This one up about just below 9% right now. On Friday, they announced that they're going to deliver 2 more of their Futurist Alliance EVs. So that's definitely of note as well. Last but not least, Marker Therapeutics, MRKR is the ticker here. They announced this morning sustained complete response in one of their lymphoma treatments. So keep an eye on these small caps right now, guys.
Look, you'll see me into Macy's. I'm just very quickly going to show you the why. When I was trading it in the pre-market, it had one pop in here to 20.50 and then sold through 20 even. It just made another, not failure, but turn at that 20.50 level. So I jumped into the short when I made that turn, looking for a pullback into VWAP on Macy's. The offer was for $21. It's probably not going to trade at 21. It's just an offer. There has not been a response just yet. So a couple of things to update you on. One, the market is still up 0.4%. Two, most of the chip names are still strong. Intel continues to fly higher. I can't say this enough. Sometimes you have to buy high and sell higher. You're not going to always get a dip buy. You're not going to always get something into support. This broke out. I wasn't even early to the breakout. I was late to it. Then it broke 44s again. Now we're shooting 44.50. If Intel wants to go, I don't care why it's happening. I just care that it is happening. This is strong. Micron is strong. AMD is strong. Just ride the wave to the upside. I've said ride the wave a lot for a person who probably would never go surfing because I am absolutely horrible in the water. So ride the waves in the market, not necessarily, unless it's your thing. I mean, I'm sure people enjoy surfing. I'll paddleboard every now and then, but Sharif,
I've always been curious.
You've been curious about it?
About surfing, yeah. It just looks like a lot of fun, and I like to snowboard as well. So it looks kind of similar, but I don't really know. I've never really hung 10 before.
Throw up the ones if you actually thought that Obi would be a snowboarder. I'm surprised by that one. Shout out to you, Obi. Me personally, like I'm about as stereotypical as it gets. Like I'm the dude in the chalet, like sipping a beverage, man. When my friends go out, like when they go snowboarding and skiing and all that good stuff. I'm the other guy. I'm just having a drink in the chalet waiting for him to come back. And I'm already sauced in the hot tub and just whatever. Nice. That's my thing. And as for water sports, I almost died in a banana boat, man. And people, like it's one of those things where like I say that without telling the story and people are like, how do you almost die in a banana boat? True story. I ended up getting concussed. I almost got chopped up in the blaze. It was nasty. But I think I told you that story, Sri.
We heard that story.
So I hate water sports for that reason. However, we like trading because trading is fun. And I'm not saying the market's going to flush, but sometimes if you find a zone, if you trade a stock in the pre-market that's doing volume in the pre-market, note the pre-market levels. Failure 2050, failure 2050, back into VWAP. I should be getting another leg out here. And again, I just joined the selling when it came in. There was a buyer at 37 that broke. That didn't hurt either. Intel's still strong. That's good. I would love to be able to get into Apple again. I thought, look, I told you guys, if it bounced off 192, I thought it would get back into VWAP and I could be shorting it back in here. It doesn't even feel that strong. The selling is real in Apple. The selling is real in Meta. Look at, this is what we mean by finding a key level. I don't care what your plan of action was this morning, once you see 325, I probably should have been more active in this when I was trading obviously we're trading other names in that moment, but that is absolutely wild. Meta super strong. Not going to complain about the morning, going to complain about the fact that I didn't sell 325. Apple can be good, but Meta was better. And I'm glad you're out of that short because AMD is continuing.
It came right back. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm looking for that VWAP to come in. But again, we talked about that 133, and I did interact with the 133 on the way up, and it was the wrong way. There was strong bids through that 133, and when we fall so heavily right back in, and that 133 shows some strong bidding again, yeah, I do want a piece out of most of it there. Did try a little bit of another short off of a potential lower high, and it seems like it's coming in. I was keeping it much tighter there as the rip right back up to the highs was very strong, so I don't necessarily want to get involved anymore. I've kind of seen what it is to kind of short this name on the day. Very strong. Again, kind of a little bit of a cheeky counter trend, but again, like we say, the trend is definitely our friend today, and we want to stay friends, and we don't want to counter too hard and bump heads too hard there. If AMD is going to kind of continue to the upside, take a look. I'm just going to pull this chart and take a look at the strength here. You know, we can. I use moving averages sometimes, but sometimes a little bit of a line is more than sufficient enough to kind of give you a little bit of some direction on the day. So we kind of made a little bit of a base here, and let's just make a little bit of a thing here. So yeah, not the best there, but clearly kind of in an uptrend, but we are slowing down a little bit off that 134. And I might have kept it a little too tight there on that short, only giving it about 15 pennies. When again, initially I was giving it way more because I understood the volatility required it to have for me to give it a little bit more space to work. And it seems like that 145 on Amazon is coming in real nice as the NQs kind of pull back in there, Neil. So we had the idea off the initial 145 test, and I hold absolutely nothing for the lower test. And I was watching it up here as well, and I was like, you know what? Let it come into 145. Markets are at its highs, but again, that relative weakness, I got to stop hesitating on that kind of trade there. I find myself hesitating at a lower high more often than I really should be, as again, it gives me the area that I can risk off of. I can risk off of this 146 if I want to keep it wide, but that 145, when you're trading in that 140, 44, 80s, 90s, even 50s, is a much tighter risk to take for a pullback in, and especially when the NQs have already blasted to the upside and start to slow down and start printing their first 15-minute red candle on the day with only about 2.5 minutes left for this candle to finish printing, and it is kind of quadunking, a little bit different than the rest of those candles. And Neil is saying it's a trap, potentially. Why is that, Neil? Do you think that we're going to continue to the upside there, or is that with reference to something else?
It's with reference to Rivian, which I'm
Okay.
in, by the way. So look, I talked about Rivian and Tesla, Rivian needing to fail 19. So this is the biggest failure of 19. When I say fail 19, not just trade under 19. So trades under 19 and then holds a low. It doesn't stair step down. Then it gets back above, makes a lower high and breaks the low. So I look to short it underneath that previous low. So that's a 1890. If it gets back above 19, obviously I'm going to get out of, not obviously, but I am going to get out of this trade. The only reason I'm saying it could be a trap is because Tesla's battling 240. If Tesla holds 240, this flies to VWAP, and Rivian probably gets through 19 even and doesn't look any good. But when something sets up as I'm looking for it, which is either stair step down or maybe stair stepping out VWAP, you got to take those setups. When you get confluence in a trade, those are the ones you want. Like, I'm not saying AMD was a great short, but if you liked 134 there, to me, 134 looks way better on a lower high because you're getting rejection. You're getting another reason to get in. You're actually showing signs of weakness as opposed to fighting the tape. So I would usually respect that. As a matter of fact, Intel just came out. So Intel did not hold 44 even. So the last entry on Intel, come to my chart again, 44 to 44 quarter. It just broke 44 even. I'll look back to this support at 43.75. We joined the trend, but once it looks like it's pulling back in, I don't mind getting out of it. If you buy high, don't want to turn that into a mess on the way back in. So congrats if you have Intel or had Intel. I think it's probably headed for VWAP test, 43.75 as well, going to be in play. So we grabbed Macy's. That's probably more of a scalp to VWAP the more I look at this. Yeah, I left one bid in there off the 2020s. I probably reload this in front of 50 with a better price over 40, but it gave a decent scalp trade in there that was worth it. I'll wait for something above the 40 level the next time through. And then we said we just got into Rivian while I'm keeping an eye on Tesla, which is, Tesla's so weak right now. I might want to be adding to Rivian in front of the 90 level if I can even get it. Tesla is super weak, and if Tesla's weak, why not just trade it? If it can't hold 240, I don't mind being in both of these. If we can't hold on to this 240 level, this is like 240.50. That looks like a short zone. But we have a couple of good shorts on. I would like to jump back into Apple at some point, but hey, I don't want to chase. I don't want to chase the move in. We got the right entry point. I want to make sure we set up a perfect one once again. But I'm feeling look for entries into the weak names for the short and be patient with dip buys. 43.75 on Intel I like. Probably look over at AMD and pick out 132 in VWAP as well.
Yeah, so I am getting a little bit involved here with the Amazon long here. Again, yeah, market kind of coming in real hot. But I do want to kind of check this 144 out a little bit here, just to give it the right kind of room to potentially work. We've made a base kind of a little bit lower than this earlier today, and that 144 did have some strong bidders kind of come right in as we failed to follow through below that 144. So I think the idea to get long, again, I did I kind of accidentally I did place my stop a little bit higher, and I went to add into the trade there, but stopped out instead of the full position. But that's perfectly fine. We get right back in and kind of redo the trade. Sometimes, you do like a fat finger kind of a mistake on the keyboard, but you realize and you get right back in because the idea has not really changed, right? It's only my execution was a little bit fumbled there, but yeah. Before I say anything further, we're going to pass it off to the big desk with Adara.
The big crypto update is definitely that move down in Bitcoin itself and Ethereum, but also these crypto stocks. Basically, there was a spike in liquidations as BTC hit a Monday low of about 40,500, slightly above that. We did have on Saturday the former SEC chief with regards to internet enforcement going on X and basically saying that he thinks Binance could potentially collapse. So that was definitely something of note. That discussion could be what is seeing this movement down here in crypto right now. So here is Bitcoin. As you can see here, this red candle to the downside, this giant push down below here, dancing below that 42,000 area. We were trading slightly above that 42,000 for a while now. Again, it looks like here we are. We have dipped below 42,000, about 41,900, down about 4.5%. Ethereum down about 5.5%. Most pretty weak throughout most of these crypto names here. Avalanche up about 6.3%, but everything else pretty significantly down. Solana and Cardano both down about 8% right now, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's so counter trend to what you're seeing. Like the NASDAQ is actually making a higher low and stronger. Yet I just pulled up another chart of something that I thought was a potential breakout, and I look back over at Affirm. I was going back over my notes, like the stocks that we've been trading heavily last week and the good prices. Affirm rejected 43 and now looks like it's breaking down that 42 support. If this can't climb back above 42 on this move up in the market, if the market fails the high again, this looks like a short. If the sellers can hold 42, underneath 42, that's relatively weak on Affirm. So I just got a reload on Macy's as well. So the same story over on Macy's. I think it's more of a scalp trade than anything else. Just got a fill at 44. We shorted 38 on the way back. Best bid was 2021. But if it runs through 50, I probably just get out of this. Just going to go stair step. The deal offer is at $21 even. I don't expect it necessarily to trade to that price, but there's always a chance it could squeeze. 14% short float over here in Macy's. I want to respect that. If we're going to get back into Intel, I was really thinking it would be more like 43.75, getting money fills in the 80s. That just popped to 88, and that was the best price you can get. I still think we're relatively strong in Intel and the chip names in the general sense, and this is the one that I like, so I'm going to try to jump back over into that. Shout out anything you guys are telling me in the chat or looking at in the chat. Christopher Mulligan, ever see Microsoft barcode in the morning before? I mean, yes, it doesn't happen often, but yeah, we've seen this before. It's just not that common. So when you look at something like that, if you're a scalp trader, money fills at and above the quarter, so above 369, and then you're looking for longs probably in the 68 area. But it is relatively weak in a general sense. Just remember, this was right before the open that all these stocks tanked, and then at the open, some of them have made a bottom. So mostly Microsoft has made a higher low and is forming a bit of a flag. I know it doesn't look that way because it was a sell-off at the open. I'd be a little bit hesitant to jump into the short there relative to something like Meta, which is clearly weak. Apple, which to me is clearly weaker. Microsoft, in some ways, out of some of these big cap tech names, is showing some signs of strength. So I'm staying away from that unless I'm trying to find a setup for a long.
Yeah, that 192, I kind of like that level on 192, but before that, we do get a quick scalp in off of that market bounce on the Amazon, a quick 50 penny kind of move there off that 144. We piece off along the way there. Again, I was watching that AMD, Neil. Kind of that area seems like we have kind of slowed down there. I did try three shorts there. It got stopped out kind of out of I guess like two of them. So I do want to piece off. Again, we talk about that having rules to kind of manage your I guess bad habits. I guess kind of replace your bad habits as well. And one of mine is getting a little too aggressive against the momentum. And yeah, sure, it happens sometimes. I'm trying to be more aware about it. But I think a system that you can put in place to kind of catch yourself is the 3-strike rule. Now I know a lot of traders have their own variations of this kind of method, but how I like to do it is if I know I'm counter trending, if I get stopped out 3 times in a row against a trend, I got to step away, got to switch that ticker off, or be a little bit more patient and actually look for the other way. And AMD is looking like it is continuing to go to the upside there. That 133 holding quite well, very, very strong as the NQ and the ES kind of knock on the door of their highs. I was just looking for a quick push back into VWAP here on Amazon, as it is making relatively lower highs when you compare it to that 146, 145 off the open. So I do want to respect that and stay a little bit nimble on the long. Like I said, this is a little bit of a counter trend, getting long off of a lower high there, looking for that quick potential bounce off of day lows, but got to stay as nimble as possible. Again, we are trading below VWAP there, so we didn't make that high 145, traded into the 144 halves. VWAP is at 60, and we do come back right in. And yeah, quick scalp off of a nice strong push off of that 144. coming right back in to that 144 apparently, but AMD is pushing on the door of that 134 there, Neil. Yeah, the momentum on this name is absolutely ridiculous there. So some solid places to get long. That 131 pullback gets bought up. That 133 flush holds the bid and pushes right back up, and now we're pushing into that 134. Again, we talked about kind of size at the level. We didn't really have too much size at that 130, I think it was 133, and yeah, not too much size here either at that 134, only about a couple hundred lots coming in there of visible size on 134. So again, like we said this morning, a lot of potential opportunities happening with these multi-day trending moves there, and yeah. Let me know. Let us know in the chat if you guys are capitalizing on any of these names. We talk about Uber, we talk about AMD, and I guess we're looking at Coinbase as well. What's going on?
No, I see a lot of people that are all over AMD, no questions about it. So look, it's one of those mornings. If you found a long in a chip name, I think you're good. Micron, AMD, Intel, it doesn't really matter. The notable objections in that space have been obviously NVIDIA, but one that I'm going to be mad at that I didn't look at to trade, and that's ARM. ARM is down 3% and failed the top, and it's underneath 65. So we're about to go to the desk with a dare. When I come back, I got into a firm on a dip because it held a bid, but ARM underneath 65, that's a big, big level.
Eli Lilly, just one to keep an eye on here right now. LLY down about 2% after a publication was released, a study basically saying that withdrawing Eli Lilly's weight loss drug or stopping taking it actually resulted in a significant regain of lost weight. So this is something to keep an eye on with regards to Eli Lilly here, LLY, guys.
Oh, so well, I said I was going to talk about ARM when I came back, but first things first, VWAP and Affirm. So I'll show you what happened on Affirm. I said if they could hold underneath the 42 and break it down. So it broke underneath 42 again, and it held a low. So it held that low, does not break down. Very much the opposite of what happened in Rivian, which is why I'm short Rivian and not this. It broke back above 42. So if you show the support at the key level, then I got to be willing to trade it to the long side. If it cannot break VWAP though, or much past VWAP, I should take something in the 30s, make sure we get something out there. So we're long that, short Rivian still, and then we can get to ARM. Not all chip names are strong. As I said, ARM flushing all morning. Look at the 65 level, which was a big time level for the last little while here. If it fails, if it cannot hold back onto this 65, that is like $2 worth of opportunity to the downside on ARM. So the market's strong, this is weak. If this breaks the low here, I'd look for shorts into 63. Hasn't happened just yet, but the new trade was Affirm, guys. Affirm off of this 42 level into 42.5, and then 43 is a plan of action for me. First out in front of 42.5, and then if it breaks 42.5, get out in front of 43 even. Still looking for a short to pop in Apple.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
That 192 is not bad.
But I want to short the stock. I don't want to go long. You're thinking long the bottom on a weak stock.
Yeah.
I'm thinking try to short the pop because it's trending to the downside. I'm not really finding an entry point back into Apple, but I'm not looking for the long on Apple. No.
How do you like a pop towards VWAP to get involved? Is that
that's what? Yeah, that's what I would like
you're
to
looking
see.
for. Okay.
If we can come back to the chart for a quick second before we go to Dario, yeah, I would like to see some kind of a pop that sets up a short that I can get into for Apple. I don't want to turn a winning trade into let's throw money away in the middle of the day, but I'd rather join this trend than fight it. Let's go on to the big screen because we've got sector watch with Adara. See what's strong and weak.
Yeah, despite the mega cap weakness that we have across the board here with all the mega caps trading lower, actually generally pretty strong across the board here. We definitely have some strength in technology services with the exception of Meta, Microsoft, and Google here. Netflix really strong actually after getting a price increase or price target increase from Guggenheim, so keep an eye on that one. We also have strength in electronic technology for all of the chips, basically with the exception of NVIDIA here. Broadcom strong after earnings late last week. AMD continuing its strength after a rally on Thursday with regards to some AI chip news. So definitely lots to keep an eye on in those technology-related sectors. In other news, finance is pretty weak. We have lots of strength in consumer services. Retail trade pretty strong with the exception of Amazon there. And consumer non-durables, yeah, pretty mixed as well, but Nike one to watch after a price increase and upgrade from Citigroup. Definitely also keep an eye on health technology with regards to Eli Lilly, trading a bit lower after a research publication suggested that the long-term effects of its weight loss drug might not be sustainable, guys.
Yeah, that's that story on Lilly, and will have me thinking about whether I want to take more profit out on that stock myself. Got to make that determination during lunch. See, we're talking about Microsoft here, and shout out to Quaducan. Just said they went long Microsoft. So I'm assuming, hopefully off VWAP, because it looks like a pretty good entry, and it hasn't really broken out the top yet. But since the open, it's in some ways strong. Like we already talked about Apple being weak. We talked about Meta being relatively weak. You can see the difference. I think the difference is pretty clear. If it's not, then apologies. I think it is. So we held VWAP in the 35 range on a firm. I got some out, then looked immediately. If it goes back under VWAP, let's see if I can't get 90s the second time through. I just pick it where it bounces. It bounced off 42, so I got 42.10s. That's just the price we got because it turned there at 42 even, and I was able to get actually 11s on a firm. I'd like to get more and add to this if it's going to trend back to the upside. But if it breaks 42, I'm willing to go long in front of that low of the day. So this is looking pretty strong. Daniel Adams, thank you for reminding me about Snapchat. Because I completely wrote this one off when it didn't set up. Right? We talked about 16 breakout Snapchat and then 15.35. Doesn't trade 15.35 or close enough to it. Hasn't broken 16 yet. Might break it now. So it's about 10 cents away. I like that above that 16 level if it can get there for some buys. Has to get there first. You want to be very patient. You want to make sure you're trading all the prices that you can. I'm going to go back over to Rivian, which set up my short in front of 19. It closed at 19.04. So you could argue that if it goes green and maybe takes that out, it could be a breakout long. Trading this one off of some sympathy with Tesla. I mean, it's a little bit, but Tesla's actually creeping to VWAP right now. I was looking for the breakdown underneath 19 here to get me to 1860. So I'm short at 1886. I have no bids because I wouldn't bid it till 60s when it gives me 20 cents. But if this gets above 19, I'm just going to take that one on. I'm not fighting anything in this market today. We're trying to join trends the most that we can. So this was trending down. If it breaks back out above, then we're just going to get out. No questions asked. I do see this JTAI, JTI. A lot of people. You're only trading small caps. Do you? Been a big cap type of morning. My focus has been a lot on Apple, Intel, obviously AMD's been moving. JTI almost 100% to the upside. 100% is always a psychological level. 350 is a big level on the daily. So I think it's got room to 350 on this 3 break on 30 million worth of volume. This is a heck of a lot of volume in this name. So it's a good one with some room to go. I'd watch out for that 350 level on the daily chart.
So I did get a little bit long there on AMD. We talked about kind of I don't want to fight that strong trend. So yeah, it was quite forgiving, even though I'm getting a little bit jittery on the flushes through the bid whenever it does dip back down. But yeah, very, very forgiving on the long side as the bids kind of keep on propping it up into this 134. There goes that 134 right there, breaking off in towards or trying to break towards new highs there. I see that the high of day is 134.14 off of this candle right here. So that 134 definitely coming in. Oh boy, did we cover too early? Did we sell too early there on the Amazon as it kind of reclaims VWAP? We make a lower high relative to this kind of initial low here off the strong quadunk off the open, and that 145 kind of coming right back in as the market kind of pushes towards its highs. 134 on AMD, 145 on Amazon there, but a little bit lagging behind is Apple. So you know what? Let me take a quick look at Apple there, and I think we could potentially set something up right here. I did like that 192, and I think that, yeah, VWAP is a great place to kind of look for the sell, but if it's going to kind of ride back up in towards VWAP, I do want to stay a little bit involved in and around this 192. Again, yeah, a little bit of a counter trend, but time of day, that morning trend may be slowing down a little bit here, which would mean a little bit of sideways and a potential to turn back towards the upside and a healthy price action right back into VWAP where we may be potentially coming in to the sellers that have been there all day. Kind of, again, we talk about institutional interest liking to work around places like VWAP and TWAP, and I think that a little bit of a reversion back into those levels is more than fair for if you're expecting healthy price action on the day there. And once we do come off the volatile morning, I think the vitals are a little bit more I guess balanced coming into the slowdown on the day. 16.4 coming in on the NQs as well. So that 16.4 test could definitely catch us a little bit of a bid here as we're seeing a lot of these names. Oh wow. Okay, no, never mind. That's just Amazon. I'm looking at Amazon on a 30-minute chart as well. I'm like, oh wow, that thing is really kind of reverting. And yeah, we did play half of that reversion. GG's on that. 145 coming right back in. Let's see if VWAP can come in on Apple here. Let's take a quick look at where that may be. Apple VWAP at 192.79. So you can see again, the idea is that yes, the trend is very, very strong to the downside. And yeah, the trend is definitely your friend. And another way to use the trend as your friend, again, is the counter within the natural movement of price action as well. But yeah, trend is your friend until the end where it bends.
That's right.
Ed Sequoia, I think.
But it hasn't bent yet. It's still to the upside.
A little bit bendy.
Microsoft,
yes.
Remember we were talking about Microsoft? Shout out to everyone in the chat that was yelling about Microsoft. Stevie B up there. The market is absolutely pumping. I should have hit this key like about a bajillion times. The market's green. I understand that we're good shorts, whether it was Meta, whether it was Apple. I mean, NVIDIA's been probably a good one. But now I'm bad wick there on Microsoft. But now I'm looking for this breakout in Microsoft. Like it was higher lows since that flush at the open, unlike some of the other big cap tech names. It then broke out the top. I have it at 03s here. Just going back over to the other thing I'm in long, Affirm kind of wicked a higher low. I didn't get the fill up there. I was waiting in the 70s. It kind of turned at 60. I'm going to give this one a chance to go and hold VWAP here, maybe add to it. I can cancel this bid and start to look for this to hold VWAP as an entry point. So Microsoft, we like long. AMD, I think, should be. Shout out to Sharif. You guys didn't hear Sharif just saying AMD in a voice that, to be perfectly honest, if you guys heard it, you'd be giving them a hard time right now. So yes, they would, Sharif.
Yes.
That was 100%. Ridiculous. Ram's laughing. Fabian's laughing. How about you open the midday show?
Did you do stand-up?
Open Learn to Trade with AMD in that voice and see what happens. I'm just throwing it out there, okay? And you guys hold him accountable. If he doesn't say AMD in a ridiculous voice in the first 5 minutes, and we're going to the midday in 10 minutes, then you guys know what's up. I heard what I heard, Sharif. But it's a strong stock.
I think
arrows up. Let's look to. I'm trying to spit out that I want to join the long at 134. But Sharif, well, what the hell was that?
Yeah. I think Sharif, I think you should try your hand at stand-up comedy. You might have some good success there. I think we might be seeing some Sharif at Friday and Thursday nights at Yuck Yucks starting next year. But I think that's solid, man. I'll join you as well. You know, we could drop some nice one-liners there. But that 192, man, I pieced off of it in the 30s. I was like, oh, maybe slowing down underneath this previous kind of consolidation resistance underneath that 192.5. But it's coming right into it as the NQ kind of blasts through that 16.4. And yeah, Apple kind of following along in step. A little bit of a reversion kind of happening there back towards these levels. I like that 193 potentially as an area of interest. A lot of volume kind of done in that consolidation there. I hear Sharif talking about AVGO. Did it pass that 1K yet? Oh wow, we broke out of 1K. Oh wow, that is absolutely solid there. Nice continuation of that push, but before we kind of continue that, we're going to pass it back to the big desk with the Dara.
No? Yes? I thought so.
Yeah, the USD saying a second day to the upside. This is the daily chart on the DXY here. Really want to keep an eye on because as you can see here, we do have the Federal Reserve meeting over the next 2 days with the rate decision due 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Also coming up Tuesday, we have CPI. Wednesday, we have PPI. So definitely lots of economic data to keep an eye on with regards to where the USD will go from here. Definitely going to be a week to watch. Also interesting here, I just have the JPY, so the Japanese yen to the USD up here as well, down for the second day in a row. It did see a really sharp increase on Thursday after the Bank of Japan governor basically spoke about potential change in monetary policy. Then on Friday, a report comes out saying that that's actually not necessarily the case. It might take a little bit longer than expected. We're seeing continued decreases here on the JPY to USD relationship, guys.
Yes, sir. And man, that AVGO that's a strong move. Now, it's not always a day trading stock. So I'll say, while it would be easy to, hey, why weren't you trading AVGO? You just got to stay within your pocket. And sometimes $1,000 stock, if you're trading with options, obviously a little bit of a different story. When you're day trading here, there's generally speaking going to be better opportunities. Like I will pick trying to capture a few points on Intel over Broadcom any day of the week, just because risk management is going to be a little bit easier. Even a Microsoft in there at the 70s. This can't seem to get past the 50s. Yet I'm offering in front of 371, but this is super strong to the upside. AMD is just absolutely flying. This is the rocket ship. Yep. The NASDAQ is now 0.6 and going higher. The ES is now 0.7 and has broken the high of the day. I think we're at that point now where you got to be figuring out the longs. And if there's still something relatively weak, maybe you can find a resistance point, but it's got to be a very weak stock. Like maybe Apple at VWAP. And even then, I need to see this set up a little better. Meta can't even seem to get to VWAP. So I think Apple and Meta are your two weak-ish names. And then just about everything else, looking long and strong here. Now, might have to get out of some Microsoft in front of the even dollar just because it's starting to show some signs of selling already at this 50 zone.
Yeah, again, I'm watching this AMD here. Not again. I was looking at that 134, looking a little weak there, but I gotta trust the overall picture there, as we're about a point away from where I kind of initially entered on the long, and finally switched over off the short, getting long through for a potential break of that 134. But again, I was like, oh, I want to stay a little bit more nimble. But again, rules are, if you're going counter, you want to stay a lot more nimble. If you're going with the trend, you want to maybe give it some more space and let it work. I got to get better with that trend trade. But it seems like we are kind of a little bit more honed in on the right side of the move there as we kind of continue back up towards that 134, 135, again, another interesting level as well. Only about 30 pennies away from there, that 135. Let's take a look together to see if there's anything interesting happening at that 135. We just keep on going, stair-stepping to the upside, 129, 130, 133, now 135 coming into play there. No real size, 1,000 lots on the ask right there at that 135. So yeah, let's see. With the kind of action we've been getting, this looks like it has a pretty decent probability of just snapping through that 135. A little bit of a side stack there happening with that 135, and yeah, price kind of runs away. Maybe some profit taking. Again, a little bit of a psychological level as well. You got a strong tailwind with the market, so you have a lot of confluence on this move to the upside here on AMD today. Yes, sir, confluence.
I like that. A little bit of French, throw it in there. You have to expand your knowledge. Hey, Trader TV Live, we don't just speak English. We'll drop it in every single language for you, which I think is a fantastic idea we can expand upon, but that's another story. We only have 4 minutes to go, so a couple of updates. There was still selling at 370.50, so I took some out in front on Microsoft. I am bidding back in front of 369.5. I think this is a stair step to the upside, and if it turns, I want to look for the the opening range top as my entry point to get back in. So I want to be adding to this long. I think it's got some explosive upside. It can get to 72, 73 if we get any chance for this market to continue with strength. We already talked about Apple. AMD just wicked 135.
Genuinely got offended, dude.
So when I see something like this, 135.04 it just wicked.
Yeah.
I was on the bid for 134 for a quick snap to try and move into 135. Not anymore. When it fails that level, I want it to show me a bottom to get in. And if it does that, then fine, I can join the trend that way. So I'll be very, very patient trying to get into that name. And then the other one I want to get to, I mean, there's a lot moving. Okay, fine. I'm going to talk about Lululemon for a quick second here. But then I don't think Lululemon, this is very much like Broadcom. I don't know that this is a trade for me, an expensive stock that I don't want to chase. But it is absolutely on a tear. It just broke 505. It's a great trend up. I think the long was off 500 when I look at it. That was an entry that you could have had in a dip buy. I don't want to chase highs at 11 o'clock. So I'm not chasing that top. Maybe you can work off that 500 level to be able to catch. Going back over to a firm, that's what I want to talk about because I'm in it. I said after it broke that 42 back up, was able to get some out here, 42.40. I'm looking for this low to hold. So 41.70 is the bottom. If it bounces off there, I look reload with a tighter stop, and then see if it can't pull the range in once again. So looking for the dip buy, but that is a big reversal here on a firm, a stock which is actually down 0.5%. Now the first trade was successful. It doesn't necessarily mean the second one has to be. I'm not here to fight the stock. I'm here to buy it off of strength on the bottom. If the bottom doesn't hold, then I don't have to hold the stock. That's going to be a firm. K&D flips. Show me a bottom to get in. Okay, raising, but fair enough. I mean, it is what it is.
Nice.
I understand when the market is strong like this, it's like, oh, well, if you can go long in something at the bottom, you have an opportunity. But that's a relatively weak stock. If the market turns, I'd rather be shorting weak stocks and long strong ones. If you can get something on a higher time frame that is strong, that's fine. And that's why I'm looking at a firm right now, because on the higher time frame, when you zoom out, that's a pretty strong consolidation off this level to break it out another level higher. Whereas opposed to Meta, hey, if it joins the market rally, it can fill in that gap. But no, that's actually weak when I look at my 15-minute chart, and it's trying to bounce off the bottom, but it's stair-stepping to the downside. So I don't necessarily like that. I think you can find some other names or some other types of trades if you're looking for longs. Just find something which is strong already is typically the way I like to go. Speaking of which, it's been Microsoft for me. I think if we get that dip back down in, let me pull the bid down. I'll look for it to bounce. It could bounce off 39, it could bounce off 39.5. I'm not here to predict where that's going to be. I just want to join if it can.
Yeah, that pullback off of that 135. Again, we were watching that a little bit of strong tape action there when the ask kind of stacks up like that. You got some large size doing some stacking action on multiple kind of gates there. Happens real quick, and you get that strong flush. So very strong, very solid reason to sell. I did hesitate a little bit there, and by the time I kind of was fast enough on the keys, we were already trading in the 30s and 40s of 134, and I was like, okay, well, we're about 70 pennies away from that 135. So you know what? If the short is on, and if we are going to pull back a little bit off of this area, again, don't want to be too aggressive. I'll stay a little bit patient. We were not patient, kind of shorting the front side into that 133. Again, a place of very strong volume if you look back on some of the price action we've done at these levels. But yeah, if we're going to kind of come back in off of that 135, I think that the opportunity will definitely be there, potentially with lower high. So that's what I'll be looking for. I'm looking for a potential lower high. Going to be a lot more nimble on the short side, as we already got clocked about 3 times on that 3-strike rule kicking in. But Amazon, that 145, oh boy, has that been a great place to work with. A little bit of a long into it, a little bit of a short off of it, a little bit of a magnet, and a nice little level to work with. Messy nonetheless, but a great level to work with if you kind of observe what it's been doing with this level on the longer time frame. Again, talking about how certain levels come into play on a longer time frame chart, you might have some backing from some stronger players when you start seeing some of that stuff happen as well. That 145, decent place to work with. AMD hasn't really gone back to VWAP. We were initially looking for that VWAP test here. If I can pull this chart back in, okay, right there. So we were looking for that VWAP test, but as you guys can see, the trend is starting to bend a little bit, but the overall trend definitely still strong. We're making relatively higher lows, higher highs. Sure, we have a little bit of a slowdown here, a little bit of a consolidation. Take a look at the strong volume candle into the test of that 135. Potential for capitulation, but again, needs to have a lot more confluence on that price action there, Neil. What's going on?
So Ram just in my ear, she's just like, it's 11.
Oh,
I'm like, you know it's 11.
I'm sorry, I'm
not
having too much fun here.
I'm not interrupting Obi. This is not.
No, you can interrupt me.
This is not network TV where it's like, oh, the clock strikes the hour and you have to go from one place to another. But
shut him down.
It is time to jump on over. A couple of things there. Firm just broke support, so I am now looking for shorts underneath 41.70. I did get into ARM to the south side, but it's time to get on over to the midday, get your education on, and learn to trade with Sharif and Adair. We'll be back at 2.
What is up, beautiful people?
Hello.
Welcome to Learn How to Trade. That is your girl, Adara. I am Sharif, and we're going to wait for everyone to come over from the other